Diesel, what's the old song? Got a long way to go and a short time to get there. Or you could say,
eastbound and down.
There you go.
Loaded up and trucking.
Kick it. We can turn this into a music station real quick.
Have a hoedown.
The South Carolina Gamecocks, they have a long way to go, and I believe they have a short time to get there in terms of not enough games left, too many missed opportunities. What I want to do is I want to look at the realistic way, the realistic path for the South Carolina Gamecocks to somehow, Diesel, some way find themselves in the college football playoff. I know the chances right now are very, very small, but it's election day. You're going to be hearing a lot tonight about the path to 270. Let's talk about the path to the college football playoff if you're the Gamecocks. Look, as I said, let's be very clear. The path for South Carolina, we all know it's a long shot right now with 3 losses. And I mean a very long shot. However, wacky things happen in college football, Diesel. Wacky things have happened before. So, with their strength of schedule, if you said, okay, here's a path to the college football playoff, obviously, and tell me if you disagree with this, and TOLOs want to hear from you as well, 71307, keyword fan. Phone lines are also open. Obviously, well, let's get this off the table. You have to win out, right? You have to win out if you're South Carolina and you want to have a chance at the college football playoff. But after that, Diesel, after you win out, and let's say you beat Missouri, you beat Vandy, you beat Wofford, and you beat Clemson, let's start looking at what else would have to happen. And I love K Ford ratings. I believe we'll hear from Kelly Ford tomorrow on the show. But what else would have to happen in terms of the South Carolina Gamecocks, Diesel, in your mind, making the college football playoff? Do you see any possible way, even with catastrophic failure from other teams, catastrophic collapses, that the Gamecocks could somehow measle their way in?
Well, number one, you're right. They have to beat Vanderbilt. They have to win out. Number two, they need Vanderbilt to keep winning. They need Vanderbilt to creep back up into the top 25 by the end of the season. See, Vanderbilt, after the South Carolina game, who's left on their schedule? They're sitting at 6-3. They lose to South Carolina, they'd be 6-4. And then if they got either LSU or Tennessee, I believe they'd be right there on the cusp. That would be, as of right now, LSU number 14, Tennessee number 7. They really need Tennessee more than they need LSU, but either one would be great, right? So you need Vanderbilt to win one of their final 2, both against top 15 teams in the country. You also obviously need to beat Clemson, and you need Clemson to just trounce people the rest of the season.
Sure.
They've got Virginia Tech, Pitt, Citadel, and then you got to beat them, right? So you need Clemson to come out hair on fire, show the college football world that last week was just a fluke, beat the tar out of Virginia Tech on the road, beat the tar out of Pitt on the road, and then put up like 100 points on the Citadel.
Okay, I'm with you there. And by the way, Diesel, Kelly Ford's his college football playoff models, he updates them on Thursdays. Today's Tuesday, so we haven't really seen that updated model since the A&M game, right? I did reach out to Kelly Ford to ask him if he could give us a little bit of a prediction in terms of what his model is showing in terms of the Gamecocks' chances of reaching the college football playoff. But as of last Thursday, Diesel, on his model, the very first one, when you go to his website and click college football playoff, the very first illustration is at-large win thresholds. Total regular season wins required to be in the college football at-large discussion. He has South Carolina at 9. So the path for South Carolina to make the college football playoff this season, Kelly Ford says they have to win 9 regular season games. And correct me if I'm wrong here, that would be winning out, right? Because you have
South Carolina has 5.
Yep.
Right now, yeah.
They'd be winning out.
They'd have to win out.
So they'd have to we said that a minute ago, and that's number one. You'd have to win out in order for this to even be a discussion. But other than that, you said it. You have teams like Vanderbilt. Now tell me why you say Vandy needs to win out in terms of making South Carolina's resume look better.
Correct.
Okay,
They need Vanderbilt. Now, Vanderbilt's been a great story all year. And I don't think a whole lot of pundits, Cole, would really downgrade a Vandy team by a lot if they lost out, because this Vanderbilt team has a very difficult stretch run down the end of the season, Cole.
Sure.
They play South Carolina, who should be ranked, LSU and Tennessee, 14-7 respectively. It's entirely possible that Vandy loses out and ends up this season, Cole, 6-6. And that would be a horrible ending for a storybook season for Diego Pavia and the Vanderbilt Commodores. So
it would be.
But then again, Cole, I don't think a lot of people would look at it and say, "Oh, well, you took some bad losses there," because you're facing three good teams. So Vanderbilt needs to hold serve, and I'd say probably win 2 out of their last 3.
Okay.
And help South Carolina out. The problem is, Cole, that the AP has just waited so long to get votes for South Carolina, to start putting votes for beside their name.
It has been a long wait. Yeah.
And
they're still not even in.
Right. And you're asking South Carolina to jump up inside the top 10 down the stretch and to really have a legitimate and solid shot of making the college football playoff. If South Carolina ends the season at number 19, obviously they're too far out. They don't stand a chance. If they ended at 17, too far out. 15, too far out. They got to be solidly inside the top 10.
Yeah.
And that's almost impossible down the stretch. So they need a lot of help from a lot of different teams.
They do. You're right on that. We're going to get back to the conversation. I have to get to this comment, though, from Madcraft before I forget. It was funny. Madcraft on the YouTube stream, where we have 54 watching right now, Diesel says, today I wrote Cole Bryson in for corner on my ballot. Figured he's seen enough dead bodies from the Cowboys.
Good stuff.
That's good.
What if you won, Cole? Just for the sake of argument. You win an election that you didn't even know you were in.
The name the corner.
Like, what if our Tolos and the Tolo army is getting strong? The Tolo family's getting big, right? What if we had a whole bunch of Tolos go out there and write in Cole Bryson for coroner, and you went into like is there a salary involved? What do I have to do? Why, by the way, is the coroner affected or listed with a political party? I don't give a rip who's
true.
messing with the thing.
It's
weird.
Republican or Democrat for corner.
Weird.
That is true. I never thought about that. But thank you, Madcraft. That was good. Comment of the day. So right now on the text line, on the stream, Madcraft's at the top of the leaderboard with the best comment of the day. Let's see if we can top that. 71307. That's the way you can get in touch with the show. Again,
well, true top of the leaderboard is Twisted Whisker with 61.5 points.
Well, that's true. We need to bring that up.
Well, now that we're here, Cole, where are you?
No.
Where are you?
No.
I want everybody to know that Rob Brown fell off the board. Rob Brown is no longer on the board. Ruby Downs from Ingles is on the board, by the way. Cole Bryson, you are, man, I'm going way down. You're below Diddy. You're below Sparty Party 12, Leprechaun of Lyman, Tiger Pal Rachel, Boomer Bill, Hog Dog. Where are you?
Thanks, Diesel.
Where is Cole Bryson on this list? I'm legitimately, and look at Delvin's on the list.
Delvin
finally hit.
No way.
Where is Cole Bryson on this list?
You didn't have to do this. You know that? You didn't have.
You're all the way down there at 63rd.
Okay.
63rd place with 13 points.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. 63rd.
Yeah. I'm just trying to keep everybody honest, keep everybody informed of where they are. I think that's important in these unsure times.
We're going to get to Dewey in a second, but if you just tuned in.
By the way, I vetoed.
You did?
Yeah.
Vetoed. And you got a freaking free donut. Why didn't you tell me about that?
It's all over the internet, bro. Where you been?
I didn't know. I would have kept my sticker from last Monday if I'd have known I got a donut.
By the way, there's a lot. Help us out, Tolos. Have you been somewhere that's giving away anything for free for voting? I went to a donut shop here in Greenville, over there on Lawrence Road. They had delicious donuts, and I got a little mini donut for free. Just because I voted.
Don't look at the stream right now. Just do not look at the most recent comment. Something that came out of your mouth.
Cole below Diddy?
You said that on the
What's
You
so
don't
funny?
get it? We're moving on. Diesel. We're not gonna go there, Wesley. Think about it. Just think about it.
Well, actually, you're on top of Diddy.
No, don't say that either. Don't say
Diddy has
that
10
either.
points.
You don't,
I got that wrong. He has 10 points.
God.
You're actually squarely on top of Diddy.
How did we get off the rails like that? I mean, we just have completely got off the rails. Texter says party affiliation in regards to the coroner are set because the coroner is the only person in the county who can arrest the sheriff. Wow.
What?
No way.
Look out, Hobart Lewis.
308. That's from the 308.
Is that true?
That's a good text from the 308.
The mayor can't. I guess, the mayor's only over a city. He's not over the county.
Man, I didn't realize.
I didn't realize sheriffs had that much power.
The only person, he says, the 308 says the only person that can arrest the sheriff is the coroner.
Interesting.
Look at you, me and you learning new things today. All right, so if you just tuned in, we did get off the rails. I don't know how we went there. Thanks, Wesley. Don't comment things like that anymore. We're asking the question. We're trying to find the path for the Gamecocks to somehow, some way, find themselves in the college football playoff. Experience on the text line. Diesel says, "Can we stop it? It's Vandy we're talking about. They're lucky to even sniff 6 wins."
You're such a hater, Experience. It's a phenomenal story.
It is, man.
Everybody's into this, right? You got a program that has sucked for a long, long time. They're getting half of their stadium torn down. They're playing in the parking lot, for God's sakes. Mm-hmm. And here they are getting dubs over big-time college football programs. It's a great, great story. Just roll with it, would you, Experience? Instead of trying to throw cold water on everything.
And it might not last long. So, enjoy it while it lasts, Vandy, right? So Tolos, let us know in terms of what you think South Carolina has to do in order to get to the college football playoff. Let's hear what Dewey has to say, our resident Gamecock fan, I guess you can call him. It's our daily Dewey. What's up, Dewey?
Yes. I'm going to answer your question, then I got something I got to say to y'all. South Carolina has to win out, and everyone else has to lose.
Everyone.
And secondly, Clemson only lost 2 games, and you ragged on Dabo. Dabo's a good guy.
Yeah,
and
good guys don't win football games.
He only lost 2 games, and they're not going to lose any more this year except the South Carolina. And Lamont Paris should be fired for that embarrassing loss to that basketball game. They should be fired.
Dewey coming in strong. Appreciate you.
Y'all need to be fired.
Everybody needs to be fired today, right?
You're getting fired. Dewey is like the Oprah of upstate sports radio. You're getting fired. You're getting fired. You're getting fired.
That's
Check under
rough,
your seats.
Man.
You're getting fired.
So I did watch the South Carolina women's last night, not to get off on a tangent, but thanks to Dewey, we kind of did. They snuck by Michigan. It was a 6-point game. Really good game last night with Dawn Staley and her ladies.
Weren't they favored by like 20?
They were favored by a lot. And then he's talking about South Carolina men's, Diesel, who
lost to
Florida? North Florida. Yeah. I'm looking now for the score on that. Dewey says, fire Lamont Paris. Man, Clemson did beat Charleston Southern last night, of course, as we all thought they would. I don't know if that's fair to say, Dewey, in terms of firing Lamont Paris after one loss, but last night it was a, let's see, here it is, 74-71 win for North Florida. It's not a bad, it's not a good loss by any stretch, but it's just one game. One game doing
the first game of the season, a lot of transfers. These guys got to figure out how to play together. It's definitely a work in progress in college basketball, the way things are built these days.
Texter says Gamecocks have to win out without question. They have to finish either 3rd or 4th in the SEC. Yeah, and that's a stretch too, right? Like finishing 3rd or 4th in the SEC is a mighty, mighty stretch for the Gamecocks with so much football left to be played. Like, Diesel, when it's all said and done, and I know we're getting our first college football playoff rankings tonight, but let's say South Carolina somehow, some way wins out. Mm-hmm. They get to 9 wins. They're 9-3.
They'd have a win over Missouri that's right in front of them,
a
head-to-head, and they'd have a head-to-head win against Vandy, who's 2 spots ahead of them. And then is there one more SEC opponent after that? Or do they have
No,
two
Vandy
SEC
and
opponents
Missouri,
left?
Wofford, Clemson.
Okay, so I mean, you'd have a chance to at least have the head-to-head against those teams. South Carolina would advance in conference to 4-3. Missouri's at 2-2. Vanderbilt's at 3-2.
Yeah.
So you would have the opportunity to jump both of those teams, which would put you in theoretically 2, 4, 6, 7, 8th place in the SEC.
And that's my worry, Diesel.
Best season in a long time, 8th place in the SEC. This conference is brutal, man.
But here's the problem. If it's all said and done, and the committee is looking at a 9-3 South Carolina versus a 1-loss team that's on the fringe, or a 2-loss team in the Big 10 or the Big 12, rather. In terms of at-larges, man, I'm just sitting here thinking in my head.
Well, they're going to look at it like this, Cole, that they've had one big win over a big-time opponent.
And that's A&M.
And that's A&M.
Yeah.
And they'll say, hey, you gave up a 17-point lead to LSU. I'm just telling you how the committee's going to look at it. I don't give a rip about how Garnet sunglass wearing Gamecock fans look at it. You gave up a 17-point lead at home to LSU. You acquitted yourselves well against Alabama. You'll get points for that. You'll get credit for that. But you also beat up on a bad Oklahoma, and you played really, really well against a mediocre Kentucky and a really good Texas A&M. So the committee's going to look at it as a mixed bag. They really are. So,
but you just all of a sudden somehow get that win on the road at Alabama. And boy, is the storyline different. JD says they would need Bama and LSU both to have 3 losses in conference, but even then they still probably can't get in. JB says, I see no path for my Gamecocks. And look, it's like I said to preface the segment. It's a very, very thin entry, right? It's a very thin-sized entry for the Gamecocks to somehow find their way in. Crazy things do happen in the sport. I don't think it happens, Diesel, for the record, but the reality of it is 3 wins and you somehow went out, you're 9-3. Yeah, you lost those 2 that you wish you could have back, but at least you're putting yourself in the conversation, right? At least, hey, by the way, today's November 5th. At least we're having this conversation today. We could be sitting here talking about South Carolina having 5 losses this year, and we don't know if Beamer's the guy, and it's just, oh, what has he done? He lost to A&M, he lost to Bama, he lost to LSU, no consistency, but we're not having that conversation. We're talking Gamecocks, playoffs, they're being used in the same sentence. That's a good start.
Yeah, it's an exciting time, and understand it's a process, right? Where you start in the season really matters. That's why I hate that they do early playoff rankings they do early rankings, because that little number beside your name, based on according to the CFP at least, trivial poll that doesn't matter, i.e. the AP, those things do start to affect the way somebody thinks about a team. Certainly,
I don't think that's right.
They're supposed to judge the quality of the team, not just look at the number beside their name, because there are teams that started the season ranked. Didn't Oklahoma State start the season ranked?
They did.
And what a disappointment that program has been. But certainly they might have a little bit of residual, Oklahoma State's a good team because they started off ranked early. They just had some bad luck after that.
That's why
those kind of things can affect the way a team looks.
And we've had this conversation before, but what's the purpose of these rankings in the first 4 weeks? Like, I know some argue you have to have them, but again, does it really help the end goal? Does it help the committee? Or does it just give them a cop-out, Diesel? Does it give them a cop-out and make things easy for them because they say, oh, yeah, you're right. They had a 6 beside their name. They were good. Yeah. Oh, no.
If it was possible, Cole, to do a blind resume side-by-side and just know that, hey, this is an SEC team, for example, just to say, hey, here's an SEC team that, is 5-3.
Yeah.
They've got a big win against Kentucky, a marginal loss to LSU and Alabama, 1 bad loss to Ole Miss. They would figure out who it is eventually, right?
Sure.
But if your task is to look at it like a nameless, faceless team and say they beat the tar out of Oklahoma, they beat the tar out of Texas A&M, I mean, that would be the only way you could do it without trying to let any outside biases in.
I know. I don't love it. I really don't. But the bottom line is, we're having the conversation. And that's a good step for the Gamecocks.
Cole, it is election day here in America. A lot of people voted last couple of weeks, but let's get into this. When we come back, I want you, Cole, I want you, the Tolos, and everybody listening to elect a tribunal to run college football.
Ooh.
Imagine a wide open ballot. You can write in 3 names who will run college football for the next 4 years. And we're going to keep a tally. And whichever individuals have the most number of votes, Cole, we're going to make them czars of college football for the next 4 years. So be thinking about this during the break. Text it in 71307. Start your text with keyword fan and tell us why you selected who you selected. That's coming up next on the Fan Upstate. When it rains, it pours on poor Dabo Sweeney, Cole. Locked out of voting this morning, said that he went to his polling place and they told him that a William Sweeney had already voted last week and that he couldn't vote. Dabo said, no, that's my son. His name is also William Sweeney.
Yeah.
Dabo completed a paper ballot and was told that he's going to have to attend a hearing on Friday to get this thing fully resolved. We're already going to know who won the election by Friday, right? Probably. You never know.
What I tell you before we went on the air about this?
We're already going to know which kind of mob is storming the Capitol. Is it going to be mullets or is it going to be macrame?
Screw Dabo. You don't get to vote. Sorry, dude. We're not happy with you right now. We don't want to hear your pity party about not getting to vote. You have to win football games before you get to vote, Dabo. God.
He said,
I know that's mean, by the way.
They done voted me out of the state. We're 6-2, 5-1 in the ACC, man. They done shipped me off. He said, I was trying to do my best and be a good citizen and go vote. Sometimes doing your best ain't good enough.
No.
You have to keep going, though. Keep figuring it out.
Yeah, you know what? You said it. When it rains, it pours. Dabo, I hope he stumps his toe on the way back today. I hope his, battery doesn't start to his car. I hope his tire goes flat. I mean, this is terrible that I'm saying this to you. Why aren't you getting me started on this? We don't need to go here.
Why is this? Like, people you don't agree with still have a vote, Cole.
It's not that I don't agree with him. It's that I can't stand him right now because he just lost a football game.
Okay.
God, win football games, then you can vote, Dabo.
Well, Cole, he's won 6.
That's not good enough.
He says he's won 6. But not in this era.
That's right.
And not in this era of college football.
Sorry, buddy.
Cole, no, the nation is out there voting.
They are.
I don't know about where you voted. I know you voted a few days ago because you had the I voted sticker on. Mm-hmm. Those of you who voted today, what was your experience like? Did you have big, long lines? Just if you want to tell us what town you're in, like my voting district, Cole, was easy as could be.
Yeah.
Like I walked in, there was one person in line in front of me, 4 people, kind of doing that check-in thing where they scan your ID.
Yeah.
The guy in front of me, he just walked right up. I walked right up. It was easy. Filled out my ballot, 5 minutes in and out. Like it couldn't have been any easier. And the problem is, Cole, we don't really have a lot of choices in the state of South Carolina. You got your choice for president. You got like options there, but everywhere else, most people are just running unopposed.
Buddy of mine in Gaffney this morning said it was 3 minutes in and out. It was that quick.
Wow.
Now, last week, I early voted and it was 50. 5-0.
So what does that tell you, Cole? That tells you that early voting is for suckers.
Well, I didn't want to die. I was worried I might die I voted last Monday.
Is that really why you early voted?
I mean, it has a lot to do with it. I mean, you never know.
If you're 90, that makes sense. But come on.
You never know when you're going to.
Then why didn't you vote on the first day of early voting? Why'd you wait till day 10 of early voting?
I waited until the second week. You're right. But I saw an opportunity. I waited 50 minutes. But, there's way fewer locations now. Or then than there are now. I mean, this morning probably
it's true.
Way more locations.
I drive by the Malden Cultural Center right over there by Malden High School every day on my way to work, and every day during early voting, there were lines of like 100 people deep to early vote. Yep. I'm like, you guys realize you could have waited until election day, been in and out of your polling location in like 5 minutes.
You don't want to risk it. I didn't want to risk it. I was scared. I didn't want to risk it.
It's like the early transfer portal window and the late transfer portal window, or early signing day, late sign. Everybody rushes to do it early, and then the actual day is kind of like, no big deal.
And real quick, a good question for anybody that hasn't voted yet. JB says, I haven't went to vote yet. Do I need my voter registration card or just my license? Just your license.
Just your license. My wife, Ashley, she changed her last name because we got married since the last time she voted. So she had to take her voter registration card as a backup for that. But most people, as long as you are registered to vote, all you need to take is your ID. And by the way, this is important to put out there. Anybody who's in line as of 7 p.m. when the polls close in South Carolina, you're still legally allowed to vote.
That's right.
So if you're 30 people deep in line and it's 7 o'clock, you don't have to go home and not vote. You still get to vote if you're in line as of 7 o'clock. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. But everybody's location is different.
And if you're in line and it's a long line, turn on wire to wire on the free Odyssey app. That way everybody in line can listen.
Yeah, we're trying to sway you a lot of different ways, but we're not trying to sway you on your election.
That's right. That's right.
So here we go, Cole. We know that college football needs a new structure, and we know that a new structure is probably imminent, right? The NCAA is feckless. They can't do anything. They get sued into oblivion every time they do things. So, Cole, I want to know from you. I want to know from the Tolos at 71307 or 844-FAN phone.
Yeah.
Who are you writing in? If you got to elect a college football tribunal, because I'm not putting all that power in one person's hands. We're seeing how it goes with Roger Goodell in the NFL. That guy sucks. He makes terrible decisions constantly, right? Like he'll give one guy a 2-year ban from the league for smacking his wife, and then he'll somehow give the next one a free Snickers bar for doing the exact same thing. Yep. Like it doesn't make any sense. So you gotta have a separation of power here, a tribunal of power. So write in who you want to be on this tribunal, and I'm keeping notes. I'm keeping tally of this thing, and I want you to tell me why each one of them you think should be on the tribunal.
And by the way, there have been several responses on X as well.
Yes, there have. We've gotten a whole bunch of those in. For example, PJ Moreau says he wants Nick Saban for the college background. He wants Bill Belichick for scaffolding the NFL viewpoint into the NCAA. Why would you want the NFL viewpoint? But hey, your vote is your vote. That's right. That's fine. Yeah. Do what you want to do with it. And then he says Peyton Manning, who excelled as a player on both levels.
I don't hate that. I'm not a Peyton guy. Like I had some friends over last night, and they wanted to watch the Manning cast. I hate the Manning cast. I don't want to hear from Peyton Manning. God.
It was cute at first.
It was.
And then it lost me.
I'd rather listen to Troy and Joe. I really would. It's a great question. I think, like, for me, and this is probably the most popular answer out there, but you have to put Nick Saban on there first, right? You have to put him on.
He's the leader in the clubhouse as of right now.
Okay.
Who else is on your list? Like, why do you want Nick Saban?
Well,
why do you think he'd be great?
I think Nick Saban won. No, I don't think. I know Nick Saban won in different eras of college football, and he understands what it means to develop, and for you as a program to have to develop in different eras of the game. And I think that'd be very valuable for the game itself when you talk about whoever's leading the game, whoever's in charge of the sport. I want somebody who doesn't just stick to their one way that they know. I want somebody who's open to different ideas. And I think Nick Saban, for that reason, has to be number one.
Okay. Who else do you have on your list?
You know, I went back and forth. I know I'm not a Peyton Manning guy. I don't hate that one, Diesel, but I do want someone who's played at the NFL level. I want someone who's played at the pro level.
So you essentially want a player representative.
That's right.
On this thing. Okay.
I'm putting Prime on there.
Really?
I'm putting Prime on mine.
Okay. Yep, you're not the first person to say Prime.
I like Prime a lot. I'm a big Prime fan, number one. Number two, I think that he would bring a huge element to the team when you're talking about the way that the sport's built, right? You got to have the sport built in the way that's attractive, and I think he would do that. So,
and he also is now would be leading the charge from a player perspective, being a guy that was around when he could have made millions of dollars as a player. He probably would have made a ton of money as a player in this era, but sadly he wasn't allowed to above the table.
Now, how many are we doing? 3 or 4?
We're doing 3.
And lastly, I'll go Urban Meyer.
Urban Meyer,
because he also won for a sustained period of time in college football and knows what it takes. Listen, he wasn't a good NFL coach, but we're not picking NFL coaches here, right? We're picking what's best for the sport of college football. And I think with Prime, Nick Saban, and Urban Meyer, find me 3 better than those. I like those a lot. Those are my 3.
Interesting. Okay, yeah. God, we got a lot of Tolos who are messaging in here. And Cole, if you wouldn't mind looking at the stream here and helping me keep track of that, I'm going to give you my 3 right now. I'm also casting my vote for Nick Saban because
I like that.
Nick Saban is in the college football sense, a conservative guy. Like, he fought the spread tendencies. He fought expansion. He fought NIL. He fought the transfer portal. He very often said, is this what you want college football to be? Mm-hmm. And he represents that kind of coach who doesn't want things to change, but will absolutely do whatever it takes to be successful in those changes. So he's definitely an analytical kind of mind that will think and look at all the different possibilities and the ways that something could go well or go wrong. So I think that one is a really intriguing option. Nick Saban, I'm putting that one in as my number one.
Okay, I like that. We do have a lot on the stream. JD starts us off about 10 minutes ago and says, Jake Crane, Josh Payton, Kelly Ford. I don't know if JD's being serious about those, but, hey, they're your votes.
Hey, I'm down with the Kelly Ford vote because Kelly Ford is an analytical kind of guy. He's not going to be wrapped up in his feelings too much, right? Yeah. He's not going to feel that one program is better. He's going to look at the raw numbers and say, hey, flat out, this big program with the big name and the shiny helmet isn't all you think they are.
Yeah, and I guess my only pushback to those three would be like, yeah, they're big-time names in the media world, but what have they done like in the actual game, in the actual sport? So that'd be my pushback there. Wesley did say on the stream, Diesel, that he would like to nominate Saban, Brady, and Elon Musk. You get college, NFL, and business. I believe that's the second Elon Musk vote. We've had one on Twitter and one on Facebook.
Yeah, that's an interesting choice there. I'm not a fan of it because he's not really been around American football.
Yeah, I don't know.
Right? I don't even know if he's paid much attention at all to American football outside of the business aspect of things. Would you really want a businessman who doesn't like? Would you want David Tepper getting his hands on it because he's a businessman who actually knows, in theory, knows a little bit more about football.
My only pushback with Elon would be, we're not running the country. We're running a business that's very, very profitable. You don't have to have a guy that knows business and knows numbers. College football is going to make money. Like, that's my opinion. They're going to make money regardless of, you know what I mean? Like, There's a profitable sport. Yeah, you got to know how to run a business, but I don't, I'll push back on that one. Let's see. Wesley says maybe Ray Lewis. JB says, how about Steven Garcia? God. He would probably like that a lot, but those are most of the submissions on the stream, Diesel.
Ray Lewis, that's a fascinating choice. Again, nobody really explaining why they want the player that they want. That's a big part of it. You got to tell us why you want the person. So I went Nick Saban with number one. Number two, Cole, this is my wild card. This is the one that people are going to say, huh? Why'd you go here? But I've got a good reason for it. It's the same reason I'm going Nick Saban. I'm going Craig Bohl. Craig Bohl, who was a national championship winning coach at North Dakota State and was really good at Wyoming till things sort of fell off the tracks there.
Okay. That is a wild card.
But Craig Bohl represents the smaller schools. I'm not thinking about just the biggest schools with the biggest brands with the most amount of money. I'm thinking about the small schools as well, whose struggles are very different from what the big schools are. He's also, again, won a ton of football. So he's a very, very, very smart football mind. I think he just looks at things from a different perspective.
It's interesting.
So I'm going Craig Bohl.
Okay.
And then number three on my list, Cole, Tim Brando. Tim Brando, a media member who's worked just about everywhere. He's analyzed football for Fox, CBS, ESPN, Raycom, and SiriusXM. Every time I listen to this guy speak, Cole, I don't know how much you've listened to Tim Brando. He sounds like he's had enough of all this modern wave BS college football. And he would be that guy that would help bring college football back to a place where it actually makes sense to people.
Texter says Saban, Billy Bean, and Judge Judy. Another texter says Frank Beamer, down the middle, honest as they come. Pat McAfee would be fun and knows the game. Joel Klatt knows the game well and isn't biased, in my opinion. That comes from Buckeye Mike. Texter says, wasn't able to tune in yesterday, so I wanted to tell Cole, who them boys, we them boys, go Falcons. Thank you, Texter. Very much appreciate
JD
that.
says, "How about Tebow?" Well, guess what, JD? You already got in your three write-ins. You don't get any more.
I like.
We're not
I like
putting
the
Tebow on the list.
But you didn't.
Sorry,
put it in.
bro. You already gave us 3.
You picked Jake Crane and Josh Pate and Kelly
Yeah.
Ford. Come on, JD. Tebow's not a bad one though. Like I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. Let's see. I did see one. Oh, Steve Spurrier on the text line. Diesel, how about that? Spurrier, because he is the old ball coach, says the texter. Nick Saban, because he complains so much, he may actually get it right. And Kirk Herbstreit, let's see, because he is like the godfather of college football.
Kirk Herbstreit, the godfather of college football? You talking about spiky-haired, frosted-tipped Kirk Herbstreit, the godfather of college football? I don't think you understand what a godfather is.
I know he's been around. Like when you think college football, a lot of people think Herbstreit, but I don't know. I'm not being a hater, I promise. I'm not being a hater, but yeah, I don't love
JD
that.
says, I didn't know I was limited on interaction. JD, what part of we're writing in names for a tribunal didn't you understand? It's a tribunal, not a 4-legged stool. It's a tribunal.
TRI?
TRI.
That means three. Thrice. Not 1.
Why is everybody so mean to me?
Not 2, but 3. All right, Diesel. You mentioned it. It is election day. Do you know betting on the election is now legal?
This can't end well.
Betting on the election?
Yeah.
I don't know. For some, whoever win money.
You degenerates.
Am I?
Did you bet on the election?
Next segment. Diesel, do you think $58 million is a lot of money?
Yeah, it's quite a bit. Yeah.
What about $23.1 billion?
That's a lot more.
It's a little bit more, right? So as of yesterday, $58 million had been wagered on the outcome of the election today.
Okay.
$58 million is a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a decent amount of scratch.
But just to show you the
Did
magnitude,
all that come from Drake, by the way?
half and half. I think half Oprah, half Drake.
Gotcha.
Just to show you the magnitude of sports gambling, the Super Bowl, $23.1 billion was wagered on this past year's Super Bowl. So you're comparing the election of the president of the United States, which is pretty big, right? Everybody talks about it.
Yeah.
58 million compared to $23.1 billion.
Did just legalize it, right?
Yeah, but still.
And people have been betting on the Super Bowl for decades. So it's an established thing that you do.
I just can't get over 23.1 billion. That's a lot of 58 million, still a lot of money. That's been as of yesterday. So you mentioned it, Diesel. It is fairly new. Gambling on the election. Prior to this year, you had to use offshore sites, which are illegal, by the way. Illegal. Never do that. You had to use offshore sites to bet on the election. Now, this year, a law was passed just a few weeks ago, I believe, that allows you to now gamble on the U.S. election. So my question for the TOLOs out there, would you, as a sports guy, as a sports gambler, I know we have TOLOs on the stream. We and Wesley talk a lot about spreads and over-unders. Do you find interest in gambling on the election? Wagers have been flooding in for weeks, Diesel. Election bets were approved likely just weeks ago. The 2024 race obviously headed into its sprint right now, into the home sprint. A lot of money coming in yesterday and today. But with this being the first time that it's actually legal, I find it very interesting as a sports guy who likes sports wagertainment, right? Will the odds of the election actually have weight in terms of who wins? Or will we not see any direct correlation at all? That's what I'm going to watch tonight and as the election unfolds.
Well, if you wanted to put some money on something real and local, the question would be the over-under 10.5, the number of election texts I'm going to get today, because I've gotten so many.
It's brutal.
So damn many. I wonder, like, if somebody punked me by putting my phone number on some sort of list, because I'm telling you, dude,
I promise. I did not.
It's like every 30 minutes I'm getting a text. Have you voted? Did you vote? Are you going to vote? Who are you going to vote for? Here's who you should vote for. Here's who this person said. I don't care. Stop.
I did not put your name on a list. I promise. Now that you say that, though, I wish I did. It would have been funny.
It's been driving me insane.
We should have put our
and they're all from the same side. They're all Trump.
So we should have put our boss's number on a campaign list. That'd be great.
I did give my high school nemesis's phone number and email address to I think it was called Queens College in Charlotte.
Yeah.
And because they were aggressive. Queens College was aggressive trying to get students. And I sent them, I applied on his behalf because I knew his first and last name, I knew his address, I knew his phone number. I put it all down.
God, that's bad.
He's probably still getting calls from Queens College.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
So more than $58 million was wagered or has been wagered as of yesterday, Diesel, on the outcome of the election, according to a UK-based online gambling company. This was yesterday, with 1 day remaining before the election and what could be one of the closest races in history we know between Trump and Kamala. The odds have narrowed from 8/15 to 4/5, shifting Trump's chances of winning from 65% down to 57%, with Friday and Saturday making the two biggest days of the election on the 2024 election market since it launched. Again, that's still a lot of money, and I'm sure a lot more will come in the day.
I would say it's possible. It's possible for gambling odds to affect. I don't know. It's going to affect a ton of people because, I mean, if you're that weak-willed that you're looking at gambling odds and saying that's going to control how I vote or if I vote, I don't even really think I want you voting anyway.
No, you shouldn't. You should not vote based on the odds. There's no doubt. But I find it very fascinating to see Diesel if, like, Trump's been, according to most odds, Trump's been favored. But what if tonight that flips? What if that flips right at, let's say, polls close at what, 7 o'clock for here? 7 o'clock, is that right? Polls close at 7. So what if all of a sudden Kamala's the favorite right at 7, and you do see a direct correlation between the odds that are shifting in Kamala's favor, and you do see a correlation between that and what the polls are saying? That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I don't think you should look at odds in terms of who you're going to vote for.
I think more than anything else, the exit polling from all these polling locations, that has an effect, right? Because you turn on any cable news network and they'll say, oh, this percentage of people say this, so clearly this is going to happen. And then maybe people will run out to reinforce that, or they'll run out to try to thwart that. It's hard to tell. But
people will bet on anything.
But then again, people will bet on anything, and then again, they will report the numbers in whatever way they see fit. It's not necessarily completely accurate. When we come back, Cole, let's talk about this. We haven't had a chance yet. Jason Kelsey dang near got into a fist fight with a drunk idiot college kid outside of the Penn State-Ohio State game. Did he do anything wrong? That's next on the Fan Upstate. Cole, the results have been tallied, and the only poll that you and the Tolos need to care about are the Week 10 Upset Picks Challenge standings.
I don't like those.
Over at the Fan Upstate on Twitter. Twitter.com/thefanupstate is where you can find the brand new hot off the presses Week 10 Upset Picks Challenge standings brought to you by Ingles Markets. They would have been out yesterday, Cole, but Dan B, our fantastic Tolo listener who helps us keep track of this, was busy flying the Charlotte Hornets to an away game.
Yeah, I wish he was busy all week and didn't do these standings at all, just to be quite frank.
Oh, that's because you're way down on the list.
Yeah.
You salty. You salty SOB. Now, Dan has one of the coolest jobs in the world. Like, Dan is a pilot. And I asked Dan a couple of weeks ago, like, what's his process like for picking flights that he wants to do? Mm-hmm. And he says, man, I hope I'm not revealing too much about Dan. He goes, I'm really lazy. I want to work as little as possible. So Dan is very selective with the flights that he takes, and he gets to do some really cool ones. Remember, he flew the LSU team from Louisiana to Columbia and back, and then he just flew the Charlotte Hornets to an away trip as well. So Dan was a little busy yesterday and could not get out these upset picks standings, but we are going to go through them a little bit later on in the show. Cole, you're way back.
Yeah, thanks.
In 63rd place. I, by the way, am way up in 23rd place, but that's neither here nor there. We're not going to get in that deep into the weeds in that on this segment. Cole, you've seen the video now, I'm sure. Last Saturday, Jason Kelsey was involved in an altercation outside of Beaver Stadium in Pennsylvania. Did he do anything wrong? So video surfaced. If you haven't seen it before, Tolos who aren't aware of what we're talking about, Jason Kelsey walking through the parking lot of the Ohio State-Penn State game, carrying a case of beer, minding his own business, it seemed. Now, like anything else could come out with this, but what we've seen so far, it appears as if Jason Kelsey was minding his own business. He's getting fist bumps from fans who knew who he was, right? Like he was a Philadelphia Eagle, so people there should know him.
They should.
In Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. And then some drunk idiot Penn State fan walks up on him and starts heckling him, calling his brother Travis a derogatory name, quote, for dating Taylor Swift, which doesn't make any sense because he said, dude, your brother is a derogatory slang term for a gay man for dating Taylor Swift. How can you be a gay man for dating a woman? Either way, neither here nor there. Jason grabbed the heckler's phone, spiked it onto the pavement, got in the kid's face, confronted him. Jason bent down to pick something up, and this idiot followed him and pushed him. Not hard enough to knock him all the way to the ground, just hard enough to knock him off balance. But right there in that moment, Cole, that's where this thing got real over the top. Mm-hmm. Because Jason had a couple of options on what to do. Certainly, he had already smashed the kid's phone, in which case $1,000 to buy the kid a new iPhone is nothing to Jason Kelsey. But where's your head at on how Jason handled this and whether or not Jason did anything wrong? Because this reminds me of what happened almost like 30 years ago when Charles Barkley literally threw a guy out of a plate glass window for throwing a drink on him.
Yeah. It's not good to see from anybody when you have something like this. I saw the video, I think Saturday when it happened with him smashing the kid's phone on the ground, right? But I guess without getting, too deep in the weeds, it's like I said yesterday, regardless of what you do, whether it's good or bad, every single choice you make has consequences. And whether the opposite side chooses to react in a good way or a bad way, it still has consequences. So once you say something, that's going to offend someone that you shouldn't say, you really can't control what their emotions are going to do. You really can't control the outcome. So you kind of have to, at that point, live with the consequences. And the consequences was the kid getting his, phone smashed on the ground. But I don't have a problem with it, just to be quite frank.
So Jason is a former NFL center. He's huge compared to the guy that he had the altercation with. could have easily hurt the guy if he wanted to, right? And I don't know if Jason Kelce was drunk at the time. He was carrying around a case of beer. I don't know how many of those beers he might have had in him at that point. He might have been completely sober for all I know. I genuinely don't know the answer to that question, but it appears as if Jason Kelce could have hurt the guy if he wanted to. All he did was grab his phone and smash his phone. So cost the kid a little bit of money, I'm sure. But the problem with that, Cole, is that Jason Kelce is now a media member. He's in his first year on his contract with ESPN, and his employer can now hold him to a standard of conduct.
Yeah.
Now, we've seen ESPN shift their thoughts on code of conduct, right? Like,
what code of conduct?
ESPN in the past has been a relatively buttoned up news network, sports news network. But we've seen, especially since Pat McAfee came on to College Game Day, Pat McAfee's getting hammered in Ireland. Pat McAfee is like
his show too.
He's on his show. He's cursing there. Nick Saban's dropping 4-letter words. I don't know if you saw that, by the way.
Yeah.
Nick Saban, they brought out this huge, spread of food on College Game Day. Nick goes, "What is this bleep?"
Yeah.
Live on TV. That would have been like a fireable offense 10 years ago.
The only thing I would say is, like, when you talk about him being in the media, look, I don't blame Jason. Now, I'm not a Jason Kelce or Travis Kelce fan, number one. But I don't blame him for reacting. If, like I said a minute ago, if somebody says something to you, every action has a consequence, good or bad, Diesel. However, here's the difference. You're not going to see the Nick Sabans of the world walking through a crowd with a case of beer. You're not going to see them putting themselves in situations where they can be heckled. I'm not saying Jason Kelce's in the wrong for being in that situation. What I am saying is, when you have that level of authority and that level of responsibility, you do have to be careful of where you're putting yourself in terms of walking through a crowd of college.
There's a reason why people, bring entourages around him, right?
Yeah.
Surround the star with 3 or 4 or 5 of his buddies, and it keeps everybody away from him. Anybody who's being a jerk, one of the buddies can kind of push him to the side and be like, "Nope, you're done here." Texter says Kelce did absolutely nothing wrong. People have gotten used to being behind a keyboard and not getting punched in the face. That is true in concept. The problem is, punching somebody in the face is assault.
Yeah, it is.
So you can say all you want to, bleep around and find out, but if the finding out includes punching somebody in the face, knocking them backwards, breaks an arm, hurts his neck, whatever it might be, all of a sudden, boom, now you have legitimate real world consequences for what you did. And ESPN could have chosen to punish Jason Kelce in some way. I'm glad they didn't. I'm really, really glad they didn't, because the texter here is not wrong. People feel like they can say whatever they want to anymore because they've always had the protection of being behind a keyboard.
Well,
this is real world now.
Yeah.
This is real world. And for the life of me, Cole, I can't figure out why this fan was heckling Jason Kelce. He was a Penn State student. I mean, maybe he was a Cowboys fan. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, maybe this kid is a fan of a rival of the Philadelphia Eagles. It's not like Jason Kelce went to Ohio State, right? Jason Kelce went to Cincinnati.
Well, let's think about it like this. I mean, if you were a Penn State student and had to watch that crap, you'd probably say something too. I mean, God, James Franklin, like, he's the one that needs to get his thrown.
Well, they were undefeated. They were undefeated before the game started.
Yeah, but they don't win big games.
But they were undefeated before the game started. So it's a moot point. It's a moot point. Texter said he carries around that brand of beer for advertisement. It's his brand. Interesting. Didn't know that. Texter says, let's get to the real nuts and bolts of this. What happened to the case of beer? Interesting question there, Texter. No, I mean, Jason could have ruined his career as a broadcaster. Not that it really matters, right? Because he's got his podcast. He's got millions in the bank from being an NFL player.
He's set.
Yeah. So it wouldn't have really hurt him. And as a matter of fact, there'd be a lot of people who came out to support him. But the problem is, a lot of people believe, and I don't know how much of this is still true to this day, that ESPN is kind of a soft woke company. Now, again, those things have appeared to change a little bit with what they've let College Game Day get away with and how they've affected their lineup of shows a little bit. But man, I would have had no problem with Jason shoving it back. But the problem is for Jason, my support doesn't mean anything.
That's right. And
the CEO of ESPN's support matters.
And again, I don't want to make it sound like Jason was in the wrong by being there. He has every right to
Nothing
be
wrong
there.
with that.
He has
should be able
every
to walk
right.
around, do whatever he wants to do.
There's no doubt, 100%. However, I'm just thinking of the conversation his bosses might have. I agree. There's nothing wrong. He should have that right without being heckled, without, some kid saying something about his brother. 100%. He should have that right. I'm just thinking from the employer standpoint, when you're sitting in that HR office, I could hear them saying something like that. Well, you have to be careful of where you are. I could just hear that.
It's the debate anytime a First Amendment conversation happens. Oh, you got freedom of speech, don't you? Yeah, you got freedom of speech, but you don't have freedom from consequences. Right. And this dude could have found the consequences of saying, "Hey, Kelsey, your brother's a bleep," far worse than what he actually did. And I don't think Jason Kelsey should have come out and apologized. He has come out and apologized in the last 24 hours or so. I don't think he should have done it. I think he should have stood on his business and said, "Hey, here I am walking through this parking lot, minding my own business, and I got this idiot, 19-year-old panty waist who's in my ear talking junk about my brother." And he goes, he should have said, "I could have made the situation a lot worse for him, but I didn't."
And I guess the only thing, if I were to play devil's advocate, Diesel, and try to push back, I guess the only thing I could say is maybe Jason Kelsey has to realize, look, it's an 18-year-old drunk college kid. Let it go. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you'll never know what a freaking college kid that's intoxicated will say. So, again, I'm just saying.
I know what 18-year-old intoxicated college kid Diesel has said in football games.
Wesley on the Facebook stream says, Cole sounds like he's speaking from experience in the HR office. Wesley, guess what? I'm knocking on wood, buddy. You see this wood? I'm knocking on it. I've never had to sit and have that conversation.
Well, that's laminate.
Say it again.
That's laminate.
Well, that's why I knocked on wood. Not yet. Not yet. Thanks, though, Wesley. But I think it's a sad situation that he had to be involved with it. The apology. Yeah, maybe he should have just.
Compare that to 25-ish years ago. Charles Barkley literally threw a guy out of a plate glass window for throwing a drink on him when he was on a road trip in Orlando. A guy, I even have his name here. His name was like Jorge Lugo. Wow. Jorge Lugo, who was not of legal drinking age, by the way. So mind you, these are very similar situations.
Yeah.
Barkley was in a bar. An underage kid who was hammered drunk was in there talking trash to him, threw a drink on him, and Barkley threw his ass out a window. And then the follow-up a few days later was Charles Barkley saying this.
I think they were very supportive. They understand where I'm coming from. In life, things happen, and everybody has their opinion what's right and what's wrong. Are my actions justified or not? But if I get arrested, it's embarrassing for the league. No matter what anybody says to me, I will not be baited. If somebody throws a drink on me, I've got to let somebody else handle it. I'm not asking for people not to say hello to me. I'm just asking people not to throw drinks on me and not to threaten me physically.
I love Chuck.
Did he have to write that on a chalkboard 100 times?
I think he forgot where he was. There was a pause there.
I think he was wondering, do I really want to apologize for this? Do I really want to say, bleep around and find out?
It's true.
Somebody else, because you also know, Nicole, like that would have invited challenge. If Barkley's on the road in New York or Chicago or wherever, somebody's going to say, you know what, I'm going to go throw a drink on Barkley and see what he'll do.
Hurricane Jeff says maybe Taylor Swift can part with one of her many bodyguards to help a brother out. She does have a lot of bodyguards.
It's true, but hey, she's probably been in a very similar situation. Maybe early in her career, Cole, and this is Kelsey is in a different position now than he's been in a long time, because previously he was always insulated around the team, right? Yeah. Whenever he was on a road trip, he was with the team. He was in the locker room. He was on buses. He wasn't just walking through a parking lot willy-nilly by himself. And I'm sure Taylor Swift found out early when her stardom started to grow that one person helping me out, keeping people away from me is not enough. Now I need two. Now I need five.
I will say this. Kelsey has, I have seen him at Bills games, Bills tailgates and stuff. But again, the environment's so different in an NFL game, Diesel, compared to a college game where you have, 40,000 18-year-olds. At an NFL game, I was at one this past weekend. Yeah, there's young people, but it's not like there's college kids running around everywhere.
So are you trying to say that Bills fans, the ones who slam people through tables, are more mature?
They are. 100%.
Wow.
Yes. I mean, they're 100% more mature. Throwing people through tables. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
God,
because it's all in fun.
What did the Rubbermaid Company ever do to the city of Buffalo? Wow. So many tables have gone there to die. It's so sad. It's not fair.
No, they really have.
But no, hey, I think in the heat of the moment, somebody like that who's making up stats here, probably 6'4", 285 pounds now that he's lost a little bit of his playing weight. I think a dude like that being able to get control of his emotions that quickly, even though he wasn't perfect in that scenario, I think he did about as well as he possibly could have.
How you react matters, right? How you react matters, but you said it. He could have done a lot worse. Before we run, though, I did want to say this because we did talk about Diesel, the betting and gambling side of the election in the last segment. I do want to give kind of my 2 cents on what happens, for people who are really vested in an election. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being vested, but this is not a political show. You and I know that. But I will say just my thoughts, Cole's opinion here. I want to be very clear. Look, the election's important. There's no doubt. We all know it's an important election. It's a very, very important election. However, I'm not telling you how to think, listeners, Tolos, but I'd just say this. Regardless of who wins this thing today, it shouldn't change how you, number one, treat your neighbor, how you treat your coworkers, how you treat your friends, how your attitude or emotions are. So if your candidate wins, great. If your candidate loses, great. It's not going to be the end of the world. We've gone through so many elections now. Look, again, I'm not diminishing how one person treats people in terms of rioting or being upset or hating someone who voted differently than them. It's an election. At the end of the day, the guys who are running and girls and females, Kamala, Trump, they don't know who you are. They don't know your name. It's not important enough to treat people differently after the fact. That's my opinion.
Well, media has certainly hyped these things up to say it's the end of the world if the other candidate wins. Sure. And that's not true.
No, it's not.
It's absolutely not true. It's the world's not going to stop spinning. Your life is not going to have these drastic changes.
You're still going to go get a Big Mac.
Yeah, you're still going to be able to go to McDonald's and get your burger. You're still going to be able to go down to the street and get your fill up your truck or whatever. I mean, we have to realize that not everything in the world hinges upon the results of this election.
I'm still going to go fishing. I'm still going to go deer hunting. We still have to go to work. Now, yes, I don't want to diminish the importance of it because it is important. I'm not saying that, but I just see a lot of people who just make it something that it shouldn't be. You should never, ever, ever treat people differently based on who they vote for. There's a lot of people in this building, in your offices, Tolos, at your homes probably, who vote different ways. But at the end of the day, what you vote for or who you vote for, you're all going to end up in the ground 8-9 feet under, and it doesn't matter who you vote for. It's not that big of a deal to where you should treat people like bleep. Can I get a Mark Schlereth beep? You shouldn't treat people like that. And
if you guys didn't hear that interview, go back and find it, please.
It was great. Look, it's just an election. It's important, but don't treat people differently based on the result of it. You still have to go to work with them and live with them. I know a lot of spouses who vote differently, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's part of it. I'm just saying it's important, but it's not, like you said, the end of the world.
I just say vote for whoever you want, who you think represents you and your values the most. Don't vote for who your spouse tells you to vote for who your parents tell you to vote for who all your buddies are voting for. Don't vote for who some celebrity tells you to vote for. Vote for whoever you want. That's what I say.
I like it. I like it. Vote for who you want. And the good news is after today, we can kind of, we'll have like the week or two of, the losing party being upset, but then we don't have to worry about the political commercials for a while, the political text.
Stop getting these dang text messages. Oh, my God.
I'm glad I do sports radio, not politics radio. Are you? Can I get an amen?
It makes people miserable.
Oh,
amen to that.
Come on. All right, on the other side, we talk Carolina Panthers football. David Newton, ESPN, next.
stakes at the door. Call in if you're man enough.
844 fan phone.
Time to talk a little Carolina Panther football as we do right here on Wire to Wire. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. So good to be with you on this Election Day edition of the show. Time to talk to David Newton of ESPN, good friend of the show. Got to see David on Sunday as the Panthers got their their second win of the season. It feels like the first in a very long time. But before we get to that win, David, let's talk about a trade the Panthers made earlier today with the Dallas Cowboys. It seems as if right now they are wanting to stockpile picks. What do you think about the trade they made today?
Oh, I think it was a great trade. I mean, Jonathan Mingo was not in their future plans. And to get a fourth-round pick out of him, I mean, to put it in perspective, you traded Deontay Johnson, who's a Pro Bowl player and was a really big, impactful player for this team for at least for a few games, and they only got, a fifth-round pick. So, I mean, I think that the job Dan Morgan and I did on this was probably one of the better moves he's made so far because, if you look at the grade on ESPN, I didn't do it, but one of my colleagues did, and they gave, I think, the Panthers an A and the Cowboys a D, and I think that's spot on.
David, I don't know if I should call this tanking or if I should call this pre-building. Like you're preparing for the rebuilding process. What word would you use?
I wouldn't use it tanking because, I mean, they're pretty much down the tank anyway. So I think it's just part of the rebuilding process. I mean, they need to stockpile draft picks. They need to build a core for their future out of the draft. I've written a story for tomorrow, and if you look at the top, the two teams that went to the Super Bowl for them, the core of that team was first and second, some third-round draft picks in there. Both of those teams in 2003, 2015. If you look at what they've got now, there's hardly any of that. I mean, they basically moved on from 4 straight first-round picks from 16 to 19. Brian Burns, who they're going to see this week, was the last of those. They still got uncertainty in Bryce Young and Ike Ekwonu. They're 22 and 23 first-round pick. And so if you don't have success with those type players, then you're really going to be in trouble, and it sets you back. And plus, you got to hit on some other guys. I mean, I think Jalen Coker's a player at wide receiver, but hitting on him, I think, was big because it made a guy like Mingo expendable. If you look at what they were doing on Sunday, they're basically their top three receivers, one's a tight end, were all rookies. So it's a young team looking ahead, and they've got to continue in that mode because. I mean, I just don't see any way they can make any kind of run at the division or playoffs or anything here.
David, the Panthers got a 23-22 win on Sunday, their second of the season over the Saints. But let me ask you, based on what you were just saying, is the Panthers winning right now contradictory to what they're trying to do?
No. I mean, they still want to try to win. I mean, you got to do that. And they're trying to build momentum for next year. They just dug too deep of a hole this season when they started 1-7 to probably get out of that. So, no, they're going to try to win every game they can. I mean, I don't think there's a guy at number one, especially a quarterback, that you can go say, hey, we want to tank so we can get that pick. So, the Saints they'd lost 6 straight coming into the game. The Panthers 5. So the Saints, even though they dominated the Panthers in the opener 47-10. They're not a very good football team right now. They've been decimated by injuries. It was so bad that they fired their head coach the next day. So you had players going on, social media going, we lost to the Panthers. Like, holy cow, how do you do that? So again, it wasn't like they beat a contending team or a team that's going somewhere. They beat a team that's kind of like they are now in a kind of a reset mode.
David Newton covers the Carolina Panthers for ESPN. David, what does selling like this do inside of the locker room? Are guys who are on this roster now, are they playing hard to stay on this team, or are they playing hard to improve their own trade stock so they might go somewhere else?
No, it's just all about playing. I mean, you're looking at your future, and it sends a message when you see guys traded that aren't contributing, and even guys that are, high guys that probably won't come back like Deontay Johnson, then that just sends a message. You got to work harder just to guarantee your spot on the team. It's just a young group. And that's why I think they were so excited on Sunday, was because most of those players, they're not like, worried right now about making the playoffs or anything. They're worried about trying to win games and trying to keep jobs. So each win, each moment they do something good, it's a moment to celebrate right now. Now, if you're a team that's, like Kansas City, if you go out there and you win a game like they did on Monday night, yeah, they're going to be happy a little bit, but it was like same old for them. But for the Panthers, they know to get to that level, they've got to find a way to do it consistently, and they're still a good ways from that.
David, the Panthers on Sunday were the first team in Super Bowl era to win a game with under 250 total yards gained, 0 takeaways, and 425 yards allowed, and making history, I guess, in all the wrong ways, but you did get the win. How did you see the Panthers just find a way to get the win, even when it didn't feel like they should on Sunday?
Yeah, I think that's another good reason for the Saints to move on from their head coach, to be honest, because you just throw that stat up there and you're like, if you can't beat this team, it's just no reason for us to keep you around. So, but yeah, I think that the fact that they did hang around, even though it was against a not so very good team, and continue to fight, I think that says a lot, and it gives them hope that if they do that, when they get more talent around them, that things will get better. But they've got to do that every single game. Nothing's going to be easy for them. So they've got to continue to do that every single week. And, they're going to win a few games if they do that. If they don't, then they'll be like they were, before that, being blown out every week.
David, the Carolina Panthers now have 9 picks in the 2025 draft. Do you expect them to sell anyone else to try to stockpile any more picks? And what do you think the goal is? 4th rounders? Is that a good spot to be for them? I don't know that they got anybody good enough to sell for a 2nd or a 3rd rounder at this point.
Yeah, I just don't think that there's anybody else that they can really get that much draft capital for. I think what they've done now is they put them in a position for the draft in 25 to package some of those picks and move up and maybe get some better players and take, maybe get 2 4th-round picks and move into the 2nd or 3rd round or something like that. So I think that's the bargaining chip they've got right now with the picks they've added.
David Newton, ESPN, joining us right here on the Fan Upstate. David, when you look at Sunday after the game, there were a couple of questions asked to Dave Canales about whether he was ready to name Bryce Young the starter or not. He said, not yet, still some film to watch and things to go over. What do you think's keeping him from doing that?
I think they still believe deep down that Andy Dalton gives them the best chance to win. Bryce, while I thought he was consistent, had really 2 good drives. It wasn't anything else that was special out there. And so, and you have to remember that all the numbers that you cited before about how few yards they had and everything else, that just says that they didn't play a great game. They played a game they survived and won. So I think to me, it feels like he's leaning to go back to Dalton. I know they still want to know what Dalton can do. Do they need to re-sign him for another year or 2 and have him be in there as a transition quarterback for whoever the quarterback is next year? I think there's a lot still to be learned there. So I won't be surprised either way, but it's just the fact that they didn't go ahead and name Bryce Young the quarterback Sunday or Monday makes me feel like it's going to be a change.
Find him on Twitter at DNewtonESPN. David, how impressed have you been with rookie safety Damani Richardson? 8 solo tackles, 12 total last week, leading the team on Sunday against the Saints. And what has the staff had to say about him? He's an impressive guy out of Texas A&M.
Yeah, they really like what he's done, and those are the type of players that you got to hit on to really build your roster. You can't depend all the time on 1st, 2nd, even 3rd round picks. So if you can hit on these other guys, that's just a bonus for you. So yeah, he's been impressive. They like what he's doing so far. He's again, they're going young, and so that's not to be denied right now. At the end of the season, you might see them, if they're not already, like the youngest starting roster in the NFL.
David, whether it be, an owner or a politician or anybody in the public figure, the public light, if you will, they always have a guy that kind of, just corrals them and kind of helps them, advises them and helps them make good decisions. Do you feel like Dan Morgan's that guy for Dave Tepper?
Yeah, I do. I think there's a lot of trust in David Tepper and Dan Morgan. Morgan has seen this done before as a player. He's been a part of 2 good teams in Seattle and Buffalo that have been contenders. So I think there's a lot of trust and a lot of faith in him. I agree with the method they're going about right now. Dan was probably right at the beginning of the season saying there are no expectations because as we saw after that 1-7 start, there was no reason to have any expectation. He knew that this roster wasn't ready to compete for like a division title or anything right now. So, Dan's a smart guy, got smart people around him. So I think from that standpoint, I think they're in the best shape they've been in quite a while. Again, you've seen some of the moves he made like today. I think that was a really sharp move.
David, I think I asked you a question similar to this a few weeks ago when we had you on, but I'm curious as to how involved has David Tepper been in some of the personnel decisions. I know they're just sort of starting to trickle out now, but is he doing a good enough job of staying away, in your opinion?
No, I think he is. I mean, he's a guy that is going to get involved when he feels he has to, but right now he feels like he has a good management team that he can trust and he doesn't have to get involved. And so I think from that standpoint, they're in really good shape because I don't think it's been that way the last 4 or 5 years.
David, you making the trip to Munich?
I'm not making the trip to Munich, but this will be a good segue for me because I'm going to be in Greensboro, North Carolina for a Steep Canyon Rangers hurricane benefit on Thursday night. And my fiance, she's got donated some her beautiful paintings of the Blue Ridge Mountains.
Wow.
That they're going to be auctioning off. You'll go to my account, go to Babette Rental Studio account, and you'll see those. And the auction, silent auction or online auction starts tomorrow. And so you get a chance to, help some people, get some beautiful art in your house. And I think it's going to be a great event. I don't know if you ever heard the Rangers, but they're really good if you like bluegrass. Steve Martin and Martin Short will not be with them for this concert, but when they get together, it's a great show.
Well, David, I'm sad that we won't get to see you in your finest lederhosen, but do us a favor, have a bratwurst or something on that Sunday in honor of the Carolina Panthers.
I don't even know where to go with that, but I appreciate it.
Thanks, David.
I appreciate you. That is David Newton, ESPN, joining us right here on the Fan Upstate as he does fairly regularly. I've never left somebody speechless.
That's
to
good.
end an interview.
I like it. Hey, by the way, David and I, it's funny you said that. We sat down and ate a halftime bratwurst together on Sunday.
Yeah.
In the press box.
Well, it's German. That's the only German food
I guess
know.
they were getting
Bratwurst.
the press media ready for the trip. They had bratwurst at halftime. And then before the game, they had, I sent you a picture, prime rib.
Sauerkraut? Oh.
No, prime rib. It was good. Good prime rib.
Yeah.
There was no sauerkraut, though.
That prime rib you sent me, though, was perfect.
It was good.
Perfect. It was really red in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way a prime rib is supposed to be.
I know, but sometimes you're just like, God, is this thing still?
Could you throw it back on for a few more seconds? We'll just sit it out in the sun and it might cook a little bit.
David's good, though, man.
Cole, when we come back, it's time to do a whip around the sports world. We'll hit up our daily wires. A lot to get to that we haven't had a chance to talk about yet on the show. That's coming up next on 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, and everywhere you are on the free Odyssey app. You know, Cole, there's a lot happening out there in the sports world each and every day. We can't get to everything on the show, so we do this. We call this our Daily Wires. Here's the buzz happening around the sports world. The NBA has suspended 76ers center Joel Embiid for 3 games after his physical altercation with a reporter.
Aren't we just talking about altercations?
Kelsey, yeah.
Man, look, you can't shove anybody, regardless of what they say. And I don't know what the reporter said. I don't know what the story was here, Diesel, but Joel Embiid's a pretty big guy. I don't know if you know that.
The story is that a reporter wrote an article and when she mentioned Joel Embiid's, I think, deceased brother and his son, Joel Embiid did not like that at all. He said, I've done way too much for the city to be spoken to and about that way.
Weird.
And the 76ers let the guy back in the facility after Joel Embiid had expressed concerns with this individual reporter. The Carolina Panthers have traded wide receiver Jonathan Mingo to the Cowboys for a 4th-round pick. Mingo was a 2023 second-round pick by Carolina. He had 12 receptions for 121 yards and 0 touchdowns this season. How do you feel about that, Mr. Cowboy?
What's your point?
Well, Diesel,
the point is he sucks as a wide receiver.
When you look at it from both sides, he's not good. I think the Panthers won in this trade, though. I mean, they got a draft pick. The Cowboys got a receiver who's not good. They suck.
They got likely a depth guy at wide receiver at best.
Yeah, but they need
the Carolina Panthers might hit on a low value draft pick.
Yeah, but you know what? It's better than Mingo. I mean, I don't think it's a big win. I don't think it's worth celebrating, right?
Yeah.
Throwing a party for. But if you can compile these draft picks, hey, it's better than him. He's not good. So the Cowboys, I don't know. I don't understand it from the Cowboys' point of view, though.
What is he going to do for you for the rest of the season? A source close to the Indianapolis Colts says that multiple teams have reached out about acquiring Anthony Richardson, but that he is off limits. He was benched for Joe Flacco.
Off limits, but if he's on your bench, you shouldn't be able to have him off limits.
Yeah. What do you think? He's just suddenly going to get way better? Yeah. It'd be like the Carolina Panthers saying Bryce Young is off limits.
That's right. You can't have our guy.
The Steelers have acquired former Clemson wide receiver Mike Williams in a trade with the Packers.
How about that?
Yep. Sources say that Southern Cal will start UNLV transfer quarterback Jaden Mayava over Miller Moss in the November 16th game against Nebraska. USC has lost 4 of their last 5. Think about that, Cole. We were talking about Miller Moss as a great quarterback, and he's getting benched for G5 transfers.
Not good. Yeah. It's kind of the sky. The sky seems to be falling in Southern Cal right now in a big, big way.
Yeah. Jason Kelsey apologized for his incident where he grabbed a heckling fan's phone and smashed it at the Penn State-Ohio State game, saying, quote, "In a heated moment, I decided to greet hate with hate. I fell short this week."
Great hate with hate. That's good. But, hey, he apologized.
College basketball started last night. Cole, we got a bunch of scores for you. South Carolina women defeated Michigan 68-62. That game was being played in Las Vegas.
It was. It was a good game. I watched it. I had that on as well as the Monday night game. It was close, though. Michigan played them well. I don't think look, they're still going to be good. It's the first game. I don't think Dawn Staley's team came out of the gate like they did. Will they go undefeated? I don't think so. They're missing some of those. Look, they're still loaded, but they're missing some of the talent from last year, especially on the inside, rebounding. Camila Cardoso, they're missing her in a big way. I think this team will continue to get better and better.
The women start out 1-0. The men start out 0-1. They lost last night to North Florida 74-71.
Fire Lamont.
Lamont Paris now 2-1 in his season openers with the Gamecocks. Colin Murray-Boyle scored 17 points and 7 rebounds. Cam Scott debuted with 6 points, 4 rebounds in the loss for the Gamecocks.
Yep.
Some ranked games to talk about. Ohio State upset ranked number 19 Texas 80-72. Number 13 Texas A&M lost to UCF 64-61. Clemson defeated Charleston Southern 91-64. Furman defeated Columbia International 104-46 at the Well.
Dear God. By the way, you heard that game right here on the Fan Upstate last night with Dan Scott, but Good gracious.
Yeah.
104-46.
Yeah. And hey, Wofford beat Erskine 112-58. I've never heard of Columbia International.
CIU. Yep.
Have you ever heard of them?
Yeah, I have. CIU, I've heard of them, but I'm surprised they're playing Furman. Well, look, it's early in the season. You play some of these schools.
What's Columbia Internet? First of all, where is Columbia International?
Columbia International, one would guess Columbia because it's Columbia International, right? That'd be a good starting point. But in terms of where it is,
which Columbia? Which
I have no
Columbia?
idea.
Missouri?
No, South Carolina.
You're right. It is in Columbia, South Carolina. Monticello Road. I don't know where that is.
Yeah,
but, hey,
I know the name for whatever reason. I think they've played a local team before.
had never heard of them before. Week 10 upset picks standings are in. We'll get to them a little bit later on in the show for sure, but you can visit right now, twitter.com/thefanupstate for the full standings. You can also see how far down the list Cole Bryson is.
That's bad.
Shane Beamer was named the Dodd Trophy Coach of the Week, presented by PNC Bank after their win over number 10 Texas A&M. Congratulations to Shane. Not the only award for the Gamecocks this weekend. Dylan Stewart named the Sean Alexander Freshman Player of the Week. Lenora Sellers named the Davey O'Brien Co-Quarterback of the Week. The first college football playoff rankings come out tonight starting at 7 o'clock, Cole. They wait until the show's over before they talk about the thing people really care about.
So
How dare
CIU, Columbia International. I called North Greenville basketball versus CIU in 2016 in the Charlotte Hornet Stadium. That's why I know that name.
Interesting.
CIU. How about that?
And finally, Matt Rule is adding Dana Holgerson to his staff at Nebraska as an offensive consultant. So kind of doing the Nick Saban thing where he brings in a former head coach to be on his staff. Very interesting play by Matt Rule.
Can the Panthers get him back by chance? Like, maybe he wasn't the problem, right? Maybe it was the owner. But what do we know about football? Diesel, speaking of what do we know about football, it's time to show just how much we know in the very next segment. Look, we've had some coaches here lately get canned this week. Dennis Allen, Saints, gone. It's time to look at the hottest seats in not just college football, pro football as well. And then when basketball season rolls around, I guess we'll have to add some basketball coaches to this welfare check. We'll check on the hot seats around the sports world next. Well, it's time to look around not just college football, NFL football as well, and see who is on the hot seats, who's about to be fired. We've seen some firings already. Who was it? A college coach, Mike Houston. What, a couple of weeks ago?
East Carolina, yeah.
East Carolina.
And then they came out and put up a ton of points the following week.
As it usually happens that way. Dennis Allen, Saints, already fired. There's been a lot of other assistant coordinators.
Yeah, they get the axe first.
They do. But it's our time to rank where we think these head coaches are on the hot seat. And Tolos, I need you listeners, you Tolos out there, that stands for Turn It On, Leave It On. I need you to do us a favor. Let us know who we left off the list. Obviously, we leave some off intentionally. We don't have time to get to every single coach in America that's on the hot seat. But let us know, 71307. Start your text with the word fan, and let us know who we left off the list in your opinion, who you think's hot or who you think seat. Well, not hot, like, yeah. Who you think seat is hot, Diesel?
Well, the answer is clearly Garrett Riley.
And did you hear Tom Brady just glazing over Matt LaFleur the other day? I mean, How handsome of a man Matt LaFleur is. I was like, geez, Tom. Anyways, it's time to see whose seat is the hottest, Diesel. It's the welfare check. We do this on Tuesdays now because, look, we had 2 segments back-to-back 2 days in a row where we were asking for your phone calls. So we said, hey, we'll move the Tolo Takeover to Thursday. We had a really good turnout for the Tolo Takeover last Thursday, so don't forget about that. Mark that on your calendars, Thursday at 5 p.m., your chance to take over these airwaves. And then tomorrow, we're at Ingles. We're back at Ingles tomorrow for the 5 o'clock fight with Melissa. It's been a while.
The Ingles in Liberty tomorrow.
Liberty. Well, the election, that makes sense, right? I think we planned it that way on purpose. This one's going to get interesting as we start at the top of the list. And again, you may agree, you may disagree with who we have on the list. But as we do this welfare check, let us know what you think in terms of how hot these seats are of these coaches. You know who I'm fed up with this week, Diesel. You know I've been very adamant yesterday with my displeasures of Dabo Sweeney. So we're going to start with old Dabo, right? Who a lot of Clemson fans, hey, he's safe. He's safe. I understand that. He's not getting fired. But how hot is the seat? Is it 0.5? Is it 9 out of 10 hot? Clemson fans, South Carolina fans, you can play along. We're going to start with Dabo Sweeney, who lost to an unranked Louisville team on Saturday. Diesel, I'll let you go first with Dabo.
Yeah, my scale, the way I do it is 5 is right in the middle, right? And 5 is probably, yeah. No, 5 is probably right where your average 6 and 6, 7 and 5, occasionally 5 and 7 kind of coach is. Mm-hmm. Dabo Sweeney has been sitting at a very crispy 1 for a long time as a head coach of the Clemson Tigers. I think this week, Cole, there's in the minds of some fans and maybe the administrators, I think he's moved up to a 2. So still very, very safe. Nobody's getting fired until they're probably at like a 7 or an 8. But Dabo Sweeney's solidly sitting at a 2 because eventually the rhetoric doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
It stops holding water.
So, Diesel, the conversation to be had here with Dabo is this. What is Dabo Sweeney really at versus what Dabo Sweeney should be at? Does that make sense? What's he really at? Probably like a 1, 2. I don't even know if he's at a 1. My answer is different, though, when you talk about what he should be at. Realistically, I think he's at like a 1.5 out of 10. What I think he should be at is more like a 3.5 out of 10. I think it should be more 3.5 to 4 out of 10. But again, it's a different question when you're asking where he is versus where he should be, because we all know it's Clemson. Graham Neff probably loves Dabo to an extent that he'll never ever fire Dabo Sweeney. I don't believe he will.
I think internally, inside the minds of some people inside of that program, Dabo's probably a little more like a 3.5, 4, but outwardly he's at a 2.
But the question becomes, though, like, not to spend the entire segment on Dabo, but what's your standard, right? Dabo told us years ago that best was the standard. Best means here, number one in the country. Well, best is not the standard anymore because you've slipped. In this new era of college football, you have not proven yourself, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, again, it goes back to what the standard is, and that's why I don't think he'll ever get fired because so many Clemson fans are just absolutely, I don't want to say overwhelmed with what he did in 2016 and 2018, but at some point you've got to look past that. It's a what have you done for me lately world. That's the world we live in. So I'll go 1.5 out of 10, but I think it should be like a 3.5 out of 10. Diesel.
You're going to start upsetting the people who don't think you should be using half numbers again.
Well,
look at you.
I started off strong, didn't I? All right, let's go to the next coach in the state, Shane Beamer. This is bold. 0 out of 10.
No way.
0 out of 10. No pressure, no heat on Shane Beamer right now in my mind.
I think Shane Beamer had been sitting at around a 5 prior to these last 2 wins against Oklahoma and Texas A&M. I think those two combined have dropped him down to a solid 3.5 out of 10. There's still like a fickle nature here, right? There's still an athletic director that's on his way out.
You said 2.5?
Yeah, 2.5. There's still an athletic director that's on his way out, and so whoever comes in may not look at Shane Beamer as his guy and may still think, hey, results here have to matter. Individual game performances notwithstanding. That's fantastic what you did against Kentucky, what you did against Oklahoma, and what you did against Texas A&M. But you also have to look big picture here. And there will be eventually there will be an AD who's got high standards, who expects South Carolina to be ranked every year.
Ooh. Those are high standards.
Ranked more weeks than not. I think that should be the goal. And I don't think that's a stretch of a goal for South Carolina. Be ranked more weeks than not.
Have they been ranked at all this year?
No.
All right, so I'm going 0. I think he's safe. I think what he's done. Listen, I've been so impressed with Shane Beamer. I really have. I've been super, super impressed with him. So I'll go 0 out of 10. Again, this is a fluid list. This is a week-to-week list that we do every Tuesday, every week. So things could change. They certainly have changed. I think at one point I had Shane Beamer to 4 this season, Diesel. Let's go to the NFL. Jacksonville's been bad. And really bad. Trevor Lawrence hadn't looked good. They don't have a lot of talent at key positions. Doug Peterson, boy, this kind of seems like Dennis Allen lost 7 in a row and got fired. I don't know if Jacksonville has the same kahunas to fire somebody in the middle of the season, but Doug Peterson and Jacksonville, Diesel, they just stink. Make no bones about it. They're not good right now. I think Doug Peterson's seat's really hot. What about you?
Forgive me for not watching every single Jacksonville Jaguars game. I'm not that much of a sadist, but Cole, as I look back at their schedule this year and their record, they've only won 2 games to this point. But most of their losses have been within a touchdown. They lost at the Dolphins by 3, home against the Browns by 5, 4-point loss on the road at the Texans, blown out by the Bears, 3-point home loss against the Packers, 5-point road loss against the Eagles. Now, you'd have to tell me how many of those losses come down to terrible clock management, to terrible personnel management. And how many of them are that this team is close to winning? Because I genuinely don't know the answer to that question.
Well, it's a good question.
But just on paper, I would say Doug Peterson's probably sitting around a 5.
Okay.
Now, if it's his decision making that's costing them these games, he ought to be up closer to a 7. I'm gonna go 5 for now.
So you're right. They have been close games. And that's a fair point about who's losing the games, right? Is it the defense? Is it Doug Peterson decision-making, clock management? I'm going to go 7 out of 10. I think it's hot, man. I think it's really hot, Diesel. And Jacksonville, look, they don't have a lot of expectations. But I say his seat's pretty dang hot. I'm going 7 of 10 when it comes to Doug Peterson. Before we continue, let's get to a few texts. 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Diesel texter says, or this is Fat Paid, Dabo should have been fired last year. They're just prolonging the rebuild. Wow, hadn't seen that
Should've
text in
been
a while.
Fired. Yowza. That's a little harsh, fat paid. That's harsh. That's too far.
Texter says, I love what y'all are doing to rile up Clemson fans. LOL. Clemson fans need to understand that they are not on the same caliber as Alabama or Georgia. Let me click on the text.
He's putting Dabo at a 2 out of 10 on the heat scale, riling him up.
He might have been talking about me, and my Dabo. I don't know. Losing 1 to 2 games a season is pretty good for the standard of Clemson. It's not okay for Georgia or Bama. I remember when Clemson would lose a lot of games and it would still be a good season, says the texter. Texter says, I moved Dowell Loggins from an 8 to a 7 after Saturday. That's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair.
That's fair. Now now Dowell Loggins is coaching for his job right now because he's got to show sustainability.
Yeah, I like
at
that.
This level to be able to call plays and be creative and put up numbers the way that he did last week.
And to your point, he's got to continue to show consistency the rest of the season.
If he follows that up with like this awful 10-point performance and a loss to Vanderbilt, then he's going to be right back there at an 8 or a 9.
Texter says Shane is a 0. There's no way they'll make a move with AD leaving. He'll get a minimum of 2 years when the new AD comes in, and then we can, let me click on the text, have the discussion. So, look, I agree, Texter. I have Shane Beamer at a 0 as well. But, again, you've got to continue to win, and Diesel said it. You got to show consistency, so we'll see if he can continue to do that. 71307 is the way you can text into the show. Start your text with the word fan. The Raiders have been awful this year as well, Diesel. I mean, you talk about a team that lost to the Panthers, right? The Raiders and Antonio Pierce they're not a good football team. They're 2-7 on the season. They're kind of in the same boat Jacksonville is. Antonio Pierce was a wild card hire when they did hire him, and I'm going to also put him at a 7 of 10. The Las Vegas Raiders, look, you're in Las Vegas now. You gotta have substance. That's what Vegas is, man. You've got to be able to put a product on the field that people can actually bet on. Right now, they're betting on you to lose. I think Antonio Pierce is on the hot seat, 7 of 10.
Look, Mark Davis, yeah, he's got a weird haircut. Yeah, he's got a nose that looks like he did too much coke in the 80s, and it's kind of cratered into his own face.
Yeah.
But Mark Davis also has a young, hot new girlfriend who says that she just loves his smile. So I think Mark Davis is pretty happy right now.
You think that's why she's with him? It's because of smile?
Yeah, that's what she said. She said she didn't know who he was when they met. Whether or not you believe that, we'll put that on the scale as well. No, I think Antonio Pierce is probably more like a 3. I understand that they're not winning, but they're also looking at it like this is his first year as a head coach. He's going to have time to figure it out. If he was in year number 5, I'm with you on putting him up there on the scale. But a first-year head coach in the NFL, he's got to be given more time than that.
Texter says, probably missed you guys talking about it, but the state of South Carolina didn't let Dabo vote today, so the writing's on the wall, LOL. That comes from Michael in Simpsonville. I said the same thing. Kick him out of the state. Get him out. He doesn't deserve it.
Could you put a junior on your kid's name or something?
That might help.
Come on.
On to the next one. By the way, if you just tuned in, we're doing a welfare check. We got 4 remaining. These 4, Diesel, these are going to get a little spicy here down the stretch. You ready?
Yep.
Mike McCarthy.
9.
Wow.
9
of 10.
9 of 10. I mean, do you think imagine a world where Jerry Jones knows that Mike McCarthy's contract is coming to an end, but says, screw it, we're going to get rid of him early and just fire him.
So I actually 100% agree with you. I also go 9 of 10. Look, 10's like, he's gone. Like, just go ahead and throw him to the wolves. He's not there yet, but he's close. I think you're exactly right. I think he is 9 of 10. Mike McCarthy's probably done. His contract's up this year, Diesel. He doesn't have any more years on it. So he's probably absolutely done after this year. So I agree, 9 of 10. However, let's go back to college for a minute on this edition of the welfare check. Somebody who had a pretty good performance on Saturday against them dogs, Billy Napier in Florida, they didn't look bad. At the beginning of the season, we had Billy Napier pretty hot on his hot seat, scale 1 to 10. In your mind, where is he now?
I mean, they were putting up fight on the field. They were putting up fight in the stands too, man. Have you seen that video?
Oh, it's bad.
Wild video of a couple of cops going all MMA, going all Ronda Rousey on some fans. God, how over the top was that
really
scenario?
Bad. Really bad.
Billy Napier, I think his seat though is still at like a 6. You know, I know that the management down there are looking at this and saying you're playing a tough schedule. We get that your roster's not where you want it to be, but that's a twitchy fan base goal. I think He could swing wildly from a 6 to a 4 in any given week, depending on their performance. But eventually, the buck has to stop somewhere. Your job is to win. And if you're not winning, you're gone.
This one's tough. Billy Napier, Diesel, he's kind of made it tough on us this year. Like the way they've played down the stretch, they won some ball games back to back. They played a very competitive game against Georgia on Saturday. I'm going to go 5 just for the sole reason of, look, that performance, they were in the game. And Billy Napier, you said it. I agree with what you said. At any point, he could go from 5 to 8.
And Georgia scored 14 points, Cole, in the fourth quarter of that ball game. Florida scored a touchdown. So there was a point, Cole, where Florida was, possibly tied with Georgia without looking at exactly when those scores happened.
No, I'm with you.
It was not a blowout football game by any means, and a team as good as Georgia should have run Florida out of the building in a neutral site game.
Diesel, 2 more. College on both of them. I'm so fed up with Penn State, but we have to go to James Franklin. He cannot win big games. He can't. I'm just not convinced that he's the guy to get Penn State over the hump. They win a lot of regular season games. They kind of were the Dallas Cowboys of college football, where they won a lot of regular season games but never really won the big ones. I think James Franklin's seat is hot, Diesel. I'm going 8 of 10 for James Franklin. You said it was Billy Napier. You've got to produce. James Franklin has not produced when it's mattered the most. They're inferior to everyone else. He was arguing with fans in the stands after the game. I think this guy's leash is really short at Penn State.
James Franklin has a big name. So James Franklin will always get another job, right? But when you go back and you look at his record, it's not actually that good at Penn State. He's got a 95-40 record as a head coach at Penn State, 60-33 in the Big Ten, Cole. And you're right, those losses all come at the worst possible times for Penn State. If they could just get a few of those, go 50-50 in the biggest ball games, you're talking about a guy that's going to have a lifetime contract. But he's been there for 10 years, Cole, and he's got about a 600 winning percentage. It's not good enough at Penn State. It's not good enough anymore. So I think he's more like a 6 unless the board over there can find somebody better, and then they'll kick his ass to the curb and say, hey, somebody else, we're handing you the keys to a Corvette. Turn it into a Ferrari.
Problem is his buyout's $56 million. That's a big buyout.
He's got a heck of an agent.
He's got
a hell of an agent.
And here's the deal, though. He's hit his ceiling. He has hit his ceiling. That's all there is to it. This is James Franklin's ceiling at Penn State. You're looking at it. There's nothing more that can be done.
But the question is, Cole, who do you go get? And that's a question that is not valid when South Carolina says it, because you've got a lot of options that are better than what you've got. James Franklin is a very good coach. He's not an elite coach.
No, he's not.
So now you're asking the question, who is elite? Who is better than James Franklin? And who will be better than James Franklin? Because it's always a risk, right? It's always a risk. You fire James Franklin, and the next guy that comes in can't keep his foot on the gas pedal, and you fall back.
With where Penn State is, tell you who I think could turn him into a juggernaut. Urban Meyer. I'm telling you, man, they have the resources. They have the fan base.
He's been in the Big Ten before.
I'm just saying, it would be fascinating to see that. I think he can do it. He's a winner. He's a winner.
Madcraft says, fire Franklin and hire Dabo.
That's great. Does he need help packing? I'll go right now.
Hey, I'll say this, and you're going to say this is wild. If App State fires Sean Clark, hire James Franklin tomorrow. Wouldn't take the job. I'm just saying. So? No, wouldn't take the job. I'm just saying he's a quality.
Would he take an assistant job before he took the head coaching job at App State, though?
No.
He'd take App State, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that job is too small.
But you're saying that you think a bigger school would offer.
I would make him an offer. Yeah. He would get an offer. James Franklin would get an offer at an ACC school in a heartbeat. I agree with that. You telling me that North Carolina would not throw an offer at James Franklin?
They should. They should.
You know, Mac Brown's old AF.
That's right.
He's going to keel over before long.
I agree with that. One more. You know how I feel about this guy. I have not been impressed. I know he's recruiting well, but Diesel, I am just on the fire Hugh Freeze train. I don't know if that's valid. Maybe I'm overreacting a little bit. Overreaction Monday was yesterday. But Hugh Freeze, in my opinion, has not met the mark at Auburn. So I'll let you have the floor first here before we run to a break. Where is Hugh Freeze in your mind on the hot seat?
5. Oh, I understand it's a bad season for Auburn, but they have the number 5 recruiting class in America right now. Right? Like they're pulling out of the depths, Cole. The Brian Harsin years put them way back, right?
No, it did. There's no doubt about that.
They've got to pull out of the depths. They've got to get rid of the bad guys that were in the Auburn program, those who aren't there for the right reasons. And it seems as if high school wise, at least, they're doing a phenomenal. They got 17 4-stars, Cole. 17 4-stars. You know what happens if you fire Hugh Freeze?
They leave.
You have like 2 of them left.
Yeah,
they're all going somewhere else. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to go to Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Texas, A&M.
I just
Tennessee.
don't think he's a good coach, though.
And by the way, I was reading the top 10 in recruiting rankings for next year. Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, LSU, Auburn, Texas, Texas A&M, Tennessee, Southern Cal, and Oregon.
That's 3 schools that weren't in the SEC,
right.
by the way.
Scary.
I say 6 out of 10. I don't think he's a good coach at Auburn. Maybe he's a good coach somewhere else, but I don't think he's the right fit at Auburn. I really don't, man. I'm sorry, but I don't.
Michael in Simpsonville says, could you imagine Urban coming to Columbus for a night game? He continues, I can tell you where he'd be after the game, on a bar stool with a smoke show. Thank you, Michael in Simpsonville. Michael, I'm going to find exactly where you are in the Upset Picks Challenge standings, and I'm going to shout you out next as we get into the Upset Picks early leans and standings right here on the Fan Upstate. Cole, I don't know if Gravy voted early in the presidential election, but he's jumping the gun in the wire-to-wire upset picks challenge because that doesn't start till tomorrow. Gravy. So I see your pick, but we can't accept it until tomorrow. So you're going to have to wait and send that back in. It's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson, and the challenge, Cole, that's sweeping the upstate is the Upset Picks Challenge. This thing has gotten huge, and as of right now, we have a total of 121 Tolos with points on the board. You know who doesn't have points on the board?
I'm close to not having points on the board.
No, that's not true.
It is true.
That's not true, Cole. You're guaranteed to finish with points. You're guaranteed to finish with points. That's better than what Dan B's doing.
I just don't like losing.
Dan B is helping to administer this challenge, and he's still sitting at 0.
I don't know next year. I mean, I'm just telling you,
doing all that work.
I've got to figure something out because I don't like losing. I don't like it at all. It's not fun. I'm way too competitive.
This is a feel challenge. That's what makes this so hard. Is because you can look at the analytics all you want to, but you just have to feel it.
I'm about to feel myself out of it because I'm so sick of it.
Rob Brown at 0. Shout out to Ruby Downs, who has half a point. She's in 121st place, bringing up the Mrs. Irrelevant spot in the challenge. Now, hopefully she can score this week and be back up there on the list and not fall off for the rest of the season, Cole. But no, you have 13 points, Cole. And, there's only 4 weeks left of the season. There's bowl games, and then there's playoff. So, I mean, you could only lose 6 points.
Playoffs?
So you're guaranteed to finish with. That's an accomplishment. It honestly is.
Oh, I'm glad. You know what? You're making me feel really good about it.
I only say that because the real accomplishment is me jumping up into the top 25.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
Michael in Simpsonville, he said, "Don't embarrass me. I'm a 0." Well, Michael from Simpsonville, you may say that you're a 0, but you don't have 0 points. You have 17.5 points. So you're tied for 44th place.
He thought he had 0 and he has 17.
I think no, he's calling himself a 0.
Oh,
he's calling himself a 0. I guess. Quick update on the standings. Swiss and Whisker has 61.5 points. He's in first place. Noel has 60 points. So a 1.5 point spread between first and second place. John Dog has 59.5. I told you things were tightening up here at the top of the standings here. 1, 2, 3 separated by a total of 2 points. Reed Atkins and Joe D both have 49.5 points. They're in fourth place. Amazon Guy has 46.5 points. He is in sixth place. Billy Horn is in seventh with 46. T-Ray in eighth place with 42. Justin L has 41 points. He's in ninth place. Notre Dame Nate and Roger Carper round out the top 10 with 40 points. You can go to twitter.com/thefanupstate to see the full Week 10 standings. You do not have to have a Twitter account to visit that website, twitter.com/thefanupstate. And it's pinned at the very top of the page, so you can't miss it.
Ask me what games I'm looking at.
Well, what games are you looking at, Cole?
None.
Why not?
None.
Oh, come on.
I'm taking my ball and I'm going home.
You're just going to give up? Because if you give up, Cole, if you give up, you will end at 0. If you don't make a pick,
zero's
you will end at 0.
No, I'm going to look at a few.
But
let me tell you this. I'm not picking with confidence anymore.
Why?
I used to be, and I don't know why it was a false confidence because I wasn't any good. But, I felt good about Pittsburgh over SMU last week, and freaking Pittsburgh just, God, what an idiot. What idiot last week picked Pittsburgh over SMU?
Honestly, it wasn't a bad pick. It wasn't
It turned out to be
really bad. Really bad.
God, what a blowout.
And then the pick that you told a lot of people to avoid entirely.
It hit?
No, it was the Duke-Miami game. Now that one was close.
It was close.
Late,
yeah.
And then Miami pulled away. But hey, close only matters in horseshoes and hand grenades, and we're not playing that right now.
Not right now, we're not.
So this is what we do every Tuesday. We just kind of talk it out, right? We figure out what games we like, maybe talk it out, maybe help each other out just a little bit in the Upset Picks Challenge. And we go over a couple of games that we're looking at, that we're considering. And we would love for you, Tolos, to message in as well at 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. Tell us which games you're looking at here in week number 11.
And you can't take the 2 games tonight.
No, you can't take the Tuesday night games. You have to take Wednesday and beyond.
Bowling Green, Central Michigan tonight. Also Miami of
Ohio.
IO. That's right. Oh, sorry, I can't do that. And Miami, Ohio at Ball State.
Do you
tonight.
realize what you've done?
Yeah, sorry. I apologize. Ohio State, Texas are about to come at me, bro.
Amazon guy says, I'm no longer cursed 2 weeks in a row again. Eat it, Cole, says Amazon guy.
Amazon guy, congratulations. I don't know what it's like to win 2 weeks in a row. I have yet to do that.
That's funny, man. That's funny. You thought you had him. You thought you had him. Okay, so Cole, I'll tell you about the 3 games that I'm looking at. We'll talk through them a little bit. Maybe you can change my mind on these. I'm looking at number 1, Cal at Wake Forest. Wake Forest home dogs by 7 points. Both of these teams are 4-4. Cal put up huge numbers last week against Oregon State, but they had been on a 4-game losing streak before that. Wake Forest has a tendency to grind out tough wins. 3 of their last 4 games, Cole, have been 4-point wins or less. They're really not scoring a lot of points, Wake Forest, but they're playing just good enough defense to get wins, to be a 500 football team. So Wake Forest +7 hosting Cal. Any thoughts?
Yeah. I don't hate that one. The only reason I would say I hate it is because of the point spread. I can't pick 7 points anymore. I need like 30. Did you say Wake +7?
Wake +7. Home dogs.
So I like that home dog. I always like a home dog if you're talking about the gambling aspect. Wake Forest defense, they have some good traits, Diesel. They're top 25 in the country in explosive rush and pass rate, which is imperative against a Cal offense that's kind of relying on the big plays. They've been good against the big plays this year. Cal, they're not a bad offense, but I think at the end of the day, these are 2 bad teams. And somebody's got to win. No, I don't hate that.
2 different styles of teams. Yep. It hasn't helped them much in the win-loss column. Okay, Next up, Cole, and I'm only looking at this one because of the points, not because I think it's a very good pick to hit, but I'm looking at Oklahoma State +11.5 at TCU.
Ooh.
Oklahoma State and Ollie Gordon have been the most disappointing team this year, Cole. I can't believe it. They have lost 6 games straight. TCU's not great. Oklahoma State going to have to get it done on the road, worth 11.5 points.
Yeah, it's a lot of points. It'd be good, especially after what you did last week. TCU has a 75.2% chance to cover the spread, which might scare you away a little bit. But again,
the bigger spreads, it's more of a gamble.
Here's what you do have, though, going against you. Against the spread, TCU's 2-7 this season. So that means they're not good covering, which gives them a chance, which gives Oklahoma State a chance to win the game. Oklahoma State's 11-3 when rushing for more than 30 times since 2023. So they've got to, you said Ollie Gordon, they got to be able to run the football. And he's a big part of that. But, I don't know that I like Oklahoma State or TCU. I don't think either really one of them are a dominant team.
Next week we need to put Mike Gundy on the hot seat question because if they lose 7 straight in a season where they started out top 25, I mean, at some point, Oklahoma State Cowboys, you got to have some respect for yourselves and fire a guy who
he's been there for 400 years.
Yeah, you know how long ago that "I'm a man, I'm 40" speech was?
14 years ago. As Diesel's looking it up.
That speech was in 2007.
And that was?
17 years ago.
That was close.
17 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm a man, I'm 40.
Yeah.
That means he's 57 now.
Yeah, he's old. Older. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said old. There's 57-year-old out there listening right now. I didn't call you old. Yeah, I don't hate that one. A lot of points, but I just don't like Oklahoma State this year, man.
And lastly, Cole, the last game I'm looking at right now, it could change.
Yeah.
The last game I'm looking at, Arkansas State +16.5 at Louisiana. Arkansas State's a good football team. They're 5-3, 3-1 in conference, and they put up 78 points in the last 2 games combined, albeit against bad defenses, but they're putting up a lot of points against bad defenses. This is a rivalry game. Louisiana is consistently good on offense, scoring about 30 points a game. But here's the thing. Arkansas State hasn't won at Louisiana since 2012.
Yeah.
and the stadium is under construction. Only half of the stadium is filled, Cole. It's going to be a small crowd, not an electric environment. I like Arkansas State plus 16.5.
So I'll tell you who I like. 12 o'clock Saturday. I'll tell you what I think is going to happen. I think 1-7 Purdue is going to upset 7-1 Ohio State.
What's that one worth? 50?
38 points. 38 points. I don't really think that's going to happen, but you know what? I'm so desperate right now, man. I'm desperate. I've got to have – I might even take Florida plus 21.5 over Texas. I'm serious. Like, it's got to be –
I don't even have to talk you out of that one, Cole. You know it's ludicrous.
I don't know. But I'm betting.
Haven't you picked Purdue once already this year? And it blew up in your face.
It wasn't good. It wasn't good.
That's one of those. It scares me off about picking Arizona State because I picked them twice.
How about this? 3:30, Georgia State, who's not good. They're 2-6, 0-4 in the Sun Belt. At JMU, 17-point spread. I'm not doing anything under 17 this week. I've got to have it. I've got to have a big bounce back upset. And I know that's probably not going to hit, but I'm swinging for the freaking fences.
Which game was that?
Georgia State at JMU.
Oh, Georgia State sucks.
They do
Georgia
suck.
State sucks.
They do suck.
James Madison's too good of a football program to lose to a 2-win Georgia State.
You would think. But I'm telling you, I like that Ohio State-Purdue spread. 38.
I'll bet you do.
38 points.
This is how you end up with 12 points next week, Cole.
Well, it is, but guess what? If something crazy happens,
why can't you find like this? I'm gonna give you a speech that your mama probably is gonna give you one of these days, Cole. Why can't you just settle down and find a nice 5?
Hey, that's time for a break on that note. Yeah, I'll pass. That's terrible. You put me in. It's funny but true.
You keep shooting for 10s. Why don't you just settle down and find a nice 5?
I think I'll keep looking. All right. What do we have coming up next after that? Oh, blah, blah, blah. That's what's on the rundown. You know what that is? It's Dabo Swinney's presser today. We're going to get to that next. Well, yesterday I voiced my displeasures with Dabo Swinney. The people that listen to the show, if they listened yesterday, they know that I'm not happy with what I saw on Saturday when it comes to Clemson. It was not a good performance. At times, they looked lifeless. They looked unmotivated. I was very critical. But, Diesel, today Dabo Swinney spoke to the media, about how great Louisville was and how great Virginia Tech is and how Virginia Tech's only a few plays away from being undefeated and how good they are and more blah, blah, blah. And maybe I'm being disrespectful, but you know what? I'm tired of it. I'm sorry, but I'm tired of the same old with Dabo. It's not the same Dabo that I'm used to. So let's see if Dabo had anything valuable to say in his opening comment. By the way, you think he did? Quick prediction?
No. He's going to talk about how good Louisville was and how just it wasn't our day.
Good guess.
Hey, appreciate everybody being here today. Excited to have another opportunity this week, coming off obviously a very disappointing performance this past week. Got another tough challenge. Going to be on the road here for the next couple weeks. Another really good football team, very similar to the team we just played in so many ways. They've got 4 losses by a total of 21 points, so they're and I think they've had the lead in every single one of those games. So it's a really tough team to beat, really talented across the board, probably one of the most experienced teams in the country in all of college football coming into the season. Had everybody back on offense and had a couple of their starters out last week. Expect both of those guys probably to be back this week. But this is, again, a team that's, 4 plays from being undefeated. I mean, they're very similar to the group we just played and very similar in style. They line up one of the best rushing teams in the country. These guys can really run the football. So obviously with how we played last week, that's going to be an area we've got to have, get back on track and have great improvement this week to have a chance to win the game. But very impressed with them offensively. Both quarterbacks, really good players. They don't really change what they do regardless of who's at quarterback. It's a talented duo there, but Drones is the he's a 230-something pound kid. He can really run. He can extend. He's a good thrower. And in the back, Tootin is as good as I think there is in the country. He's a very good player. He's explosive. He's can run away from you in the open field. And very similar, again, to what we saw last week, a lot of stretch, a little bit different that they've got a little bit of midline and what we call wham, built into it as far as how they go about and trying to split your defense. Good receivers at every spot, all 3 positions. Tight ends are involved as well in what they do in the run and pass game, but very, very good players outside. So it's a complete offense. They're doing a nice job. And again, 2 of those losses, I believe, came in overtime, or at least this past one came in overtime, and the other one came on a review of the last play of the game. So it's a team that will battle and compete to the end, and got a lot of respect for Brent and the job that he's done up there and the team that they've got. And again, we're going to have to play really, really well to go win this game defensively.
All right, I'm going to stop on there. Diesel, I'm not denying that Dabo Swinney doesn't know football. I don't think many people would, right? Like, we all agree Dabo knows the game. Dabo, he's been around football his entire life. He knows X's and O's. He knows football. But these press conferences, man, I'm telling you, I mean, it is so substanceless. It is so – it's a good team, very similar to Louisville. They stretch the field. The running back's the best in the country. The quarterback's good. Their head coach done a good job. They're very similar to Louisville. I don't know if you heard me or not, but hey, they're very similar to Louisville. They're a good team, and we're gonna play. Dude, just go win. Just go win the game. I'm so sick of this. You can tell, Diesel, I'm frustrated, but I'm telling you, man, I wish all Clemson fans were in the same spot that I'm in.
Dabo Swinney's press conferences opening statements need to be about 60 seconds long.
Yeah, a timer.
And then open it up for questions. Let people ask you what happened. Why did things break down? Instead of spending, 10 minutes. And how long is his opening statement here? Oftentimes, I know it's very long.
Watch this. I'll find out.
Oftentimes, it's very long. And it's Dabo essentially setting up his answers to excuses before the questions.
I've sat in a 10, 15-minute opening press. I've sat in them. I'm telling you that it's happened. Look, I think, what is the show on ESPN? Pardon the interruption. Is that right?
Yep.
Or they go through a topic, and there's a timer.
Yep.
That's what they needed for Dabo, an opening statement. 5 minutes at most. Shut up. Let us ask you the questions. I'll tell you this. Those press conferences, I wanted to be there today. I couldn't. I had a meeting this morning that I had to be at for my other job, and I could not make it to Clemson today for this press conference, but I wanted to be there today. Diesel, I wanted to ask a question. I wanted to ask a question that most of the Clemson media just don't have the you-know-whats to ask.
Yeah.
It's just so like.
What would you have asked him if you had been sitting face-to-face?
I just said, number one, are you embarrassed?
That's a good question. Are you embarrassed?
It's very simple. Are you? I mean,
I would have asked the question, is your team mentally strong enough to handle playing from behind? Because they clearly showed that they're not. And what are you doing to change that?
You may say that's not a fair question. But I just want to know, like, is Dabo Swinney proud of the past 3 to 4 years and being a good football team, winning games, doing it his way, believing in his guys? I retweeted one of David Hood's tweets earlier today, Diesel, where I believe David asked him the question. I put an eye roll emoji. Here it is. Swinney is asked if he regrets not using the portal at defensive end, considering the issues. And he says, you want to guess? We love our roster. I mean, good God. Like, what? I'm so sick of this. I'm not saying fire
Hey, I love the Merrill hiking boots that I'm wearing right now, but that doesn't mean if something better comes along, I'm not looking at it and making a real tough decision saying, is it worth going out to get?
I just want to know why other Clemson fans can't get on board. Like, why are we so married to this? Why are we so content with what Dabo did in 2016 and 2018 being all we're good with? I mean, come on, man. I don't know if I'm going to get over this or not. I think Saturday was as embarrassed as I've been in a long, long time.
Cole, when we come back, we are just an hour away from the very first CFP rankings. Let's see if we can put on our Swami hats and go into the minds of the College Football Playoff Committee and predict where we think they're going to go with their top 10s and compare that side by side with the AP top 10. That's next. Congratulations. We have made it to the very first rankings of the season. What about all those other rankings weeks? Well, that's the AP poll. The AP poll doesn't matter anymore. The AP poll is irrelevant. The AP poll essentially becomes what the coaches poll is. Always irrelevant. Who gives a rip what coaches think anyway? Coaches don't even fill out the rankings.
What are you talking about Clemson and Dabo again for? what do we got to go back to that? Irrelevant. I mean, hey, by the way, how will the ratings be tonight with it being election night? First ever college football playoff. They've got to be down, right?
Hopefully people will be like, you know what? I've had enough.
No, I agree with
all this election coverage.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We've only been inundated with it for the last 6 months.
Yeah.
Every day, nonstop. My freaking phone won't stop vibrating from all these stupid text messages from all over. Like, they're not even 864 numbers. They're not even from here. They're from like all over the country.
Somebody played a prank on
Have you
Diesel
voted? When are you going to vote? Our records show that you haven't voted. Who are you going to vote for? What is she? Stop.
Well, they will stop. By the way, they will stop tonight.
Thank God.
But it'll be interesting to see. I agree with you. It'll be nice. And that's why I love sports radio. That's why I love it. Just to block out the noise. You got to do this.
The very first college football playoff rankings will unveil at 7:00. I feel like that's a cruel joke in and of itself, Cole, because we could spend the last hour of every single Tuesday night show
like on our edge of our seat like this,
breaking this thing down,
waiting.
But no, like as soon as we get off the air, bam, that's when they give the ratings. So we got to wait 24 hours to talk about.
You want me to text the
text Kirk Herbstreit and be like, bro, can you give them to us now? That way we can go ahead and talk about it because our show's going to be over soon.
Hey Siri, text Kirk Herbstreit.
He's got other stuff he's dealing with.
She said, I don't see a Kirk.
He's got other stuff he's dealing with. This is actually sad news. His dog's not doing well.
That's the one that's always with him on TV?
Ben, I think is his dog's name. The golden retriever, that adorable ass. All golden retrievers are cute dogs.
They're dumb, but they're cute.
Yeah. Well, they can say the same thing about people in this room, Cole. But no, we're actually getting there. So we'll have our first CFP rankings. They unveil them pretty quickly, and they just talk about it for the next 30 minutes or an hour on the show.
I like it.
So, Cole, here's the AP top 10, and I want to have us predict where we think the college football playoff committee will go. Okay. So here's the AP rankings, and this is the only guide we have to this point. Oregon 1, they're 9-0. Georgia's number 2 at 7-1. Ohio State number 3, also at 7-1. Miami at 4, 9-0. Mm-hmm. Texas 5, 7-1. Penn State 6, 7-1. Tennessee is at 7th, 7-1. Indiana is 8 at 9-0. BYU is at 9, 8-0. Notre Dame, 10th place, 7-1. Now, Cole, if I have ever watched a college football playoff poll reveal in my life, I know that early on they will do things to get people talking. Right? So? They're trying to break through the noise, right? They're trying to break through all this cacophonous noise of election coverage. So I wouldn't put it past these chuckleheads in a room to do something crazy like boost an Indiana up.
Okay.
Or boost a Miami up. And Miami's 9-0. They played nobody to this point. Indiana's 9-0. They played nobody to this point. BYU's undefeated. And then after that, you got a bunch of 7-1 football teams.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing how many 7-1 teams we have here at the top. I mean, tippy top of the rankings teams have been going down all season long, Cole. So I'm going to give you my top 10, my prediction for where the college football playoff committee will go with the top 10. You tell me if I'm wrong. You TOLOs tell me if I'm wrong. 71307. Start your text with keyword fan.
Okay.
Very clearly, number 1 going to be Oregon.
Yeah.
I think they'll have Ohio State number 2 because Ohio State barely lost on a technicality, on a rule that has now been changed so you can't do that anymore, to Oregon. So I'm going to say Ohio State will be number 2. Number 3, I think they'll give Miami a little spliff for being undefeated. Miami's going to be your number 3 team in the country. And that is the controversy point that I think they're going to do
Yeah.
on purpose.
Yeah.
It'll be played out down the road, right? So they can do something wild like boosting Miami up because they know this will be played out down the road. Or they can always just change it, right? It's their opinion. They can change it whenever they want to. Number 4, they'll have Georgia. Number 5, they'll have Texas by virtue of obviously those two teams playing head-to-head and Georgia winning the football game. I think they'll put BYU, an undefeated BYU, number 6, also a controversy pick because they know that the Penn State fans and the Tennessee fans are going to lose their ever-loving minds because who do you think you are putting an undefeated BYU above us? But remember, this is not independent BYU. This is Big 12 BYU. I think they'll have Penn State 7 because despite the loss to Ohio State, they have looked good all season long. Tennessee will be 8 because they have struggled a time or two. Notre Dame will be 9 and Indiana will be 10 because they want people in middle America in Indiana losing their minds, screaming about disrespect. How dare you put us at 10?
Okay, I don't hate yours, but mine and yours is pretty different. It's pretty different, Diesel. I'm with you on 1. I do think they have Oregon at 1 tonight when it's all said and done. They're the best team. They're 9-0. They don't have any blemishes, right? They're almost perfect. I mean, they've looked really, really good in 2024. But it does not take long for me to disagree with you. And you having Ohio State at 2, I have Georgia at 2. You got to have an SEC school in there because if not, you'll lose all the ratings. The SEC will sue you. They'll fine you. They'll come at you. You got to have an SEC school in the top 4.
They'll withdraw their schools from your ratings.
That's right.
Guess what? You can't rank us.
While I think Ohio State's probably deserving of 2, Diesel, I like yours. I think Ohio State should be 2, but we're asking where do I think the College Football Playoff Committee will put these. I think the College Football Committee will have Georgia at 2, Ohio State at 3. You have Miami at 3, Georgia at 4. I have Oregon 1, Georgia 2, Ohio State 3. I think they'll put Texas in at 4. Too big of a brand not to have in the top 4 at 7-1. That means Miami, who is what? 9-0 is not in my top 4. Sorry, Madcraft.
He's going to lose his mind.
He's going to come at me. But I think the College Football Playoff will look at Miami's strength of schedule versus Texas's strength of schedule, Ohio State, Georgia, and Oregon's strength of schedule. You can't convince me why Miami should be top 4. They haven't played anybody. Yes, they're 9-0. Yes, they have undefeated record, and they're a good team. They have a really good quarterback, probably one of the best quarterbacks in the country. But right now, these aren't the final rankings.
Could you imagine if Texas had Cam Ward?
It'd be pretty good.
Yeah.
Right now, these aren't the final rankings. I think Miami's on the outside of the top 4 looking in, so I think they have Miami at 5. I like your BYU at 6. It's hard to argue 8-0, right? They're in a competitive conference. They're the class of the conference, Diesel.
But they haven't played a tough schedule.
They haven't. I know, but you're right. But they're 8-0. I think them and Miami both being undefeated will be back-to-back. Miami at 5, BYU at 6. Indiana, look, Indiana's 9-0. I have them at 7. You talk about an unblemished team in Indiana. I think they'll put Indiana at 7. I think they'll put Tennessee at 8. So I agree with you there. I have them putting Notre Dame at 9 and Penn State at 10. Penn State, in my mind, doesn't deserve to be anywhere near the top 5. They've got to be 10 tonight when it's all said and done in the top 10. So, again, I have Oregon 1, Georgia 2, Ohio State 3, Texas 4, Miami 5, BYU 6, Indiana 7, Tennessee 8, Notre Dame 9, Penn State 10. That's my prediction on how the college football playoff will look in about 50 minutes from now.
Notre Dame has no business being in the top 10 because Notre Dame's schedule sucks. Yeah, they beat Louisville. Outside of that, they mollywopped Navy. Big deal. You mollywopped a top 25 G5 team. Like, what is Notre Dame that's done that's been impressive? I mean, they had one of the ugliest and most embarrassing losses of the season so far to NIU.
They did. But it was early.
And then, okay, great. You beat up on Purdue. You beat up on Miami of Ohio.
Well, I think the Louisville win has a little more weight now today than it did last week. maybe because of Louisville's win over Clemson. And Notre Dame's defense is good. I mean, they're a good, solid unit defensively. I agree with you. I don't think they're world beaters, but I do think the college football, it's Notre Dame. They'll have them in the top 10. It's the brand.
Here's why I think you're wrong about Penn State. You have Penn State at 10.
Yep.
And again, we're not doing our top 10. We're doing the top 10 that we think the college football playoff will do. And this will be interesting, Cole, to find out who's more accurate as of tomorrow. We can go back over this if we want to.
Yeah.
The committee will respect Penn State's strength of schedule to this point and their relatively close game against top 5 Ohio State. They are not, trust me, they are not penalizing Penn State the way that you are penalizing Penn State because you have a personal vendetta against James Franklin.
I just don't think he's a good coach.
I'm well aware. I'm just saying the committee, they do think he's a good coach. I mean, they may have it buried in the back of their mind that he doesn't win the big games. You have it in the back of your mind that he can't win the big games.
Yeah, you're right.
And that's semantics at that point, right? Josh Pate talks about it all the time on his show. Just because somebody hasn't done it yet doesn't mean that they can't do it. You're writing him off that he can't do it.
I want to see the proof.
Yeah,
I want to see.
I mean, your concerns are valid, and if you're a Penn State fan, your concerns are very valid.
They should be, right? They should be concerned. Like if you're a Penn State fan, and I'm with you, just because they haven't, I completely agree with that philosophy. But Diesel, if you're a Penn State fan, what else are you waiting on? I mean, are you going to wait around until your kids are old? And, I mean, I'm just serious. Penn State's had a good team year after year after year, but boy, they have been nothing when it comes to big games.
It's a bleeper get off the pot.
Here's the problem. I don't know if you watched that game Saturday, Diesel. Ohio State didn't play well. Will Howard turned the ball over. They had 3 turnovers on Saturday.
I got into it big time with a listener, and I'd have to go back and find out remember who it was. But they were upset at me for calling out the Penn State defensive back who got called on a 15-yard penalty. I think this was late in the second quarter, maybe early in the third. Penn State stopped Ohio State on let's call it a 3rd and 14.
Yeah.
The pass was completed from Will Howard to his wide receiver for like 12. You had him stopped. You had him stopped in good field position. And then the Penn State defensive back stands up and crosses over the wide receiver who's still on the ground, crotch first over his helmet. And that's considered, and he does the little Hulk, like I'm so strong move. It's taunting. It's clearly taunting. Anybody with half a brain knows that's taunting. And I'm going back and forth with this listener, and he doesn't feel like that rises to the level of a taunting penalty. I said, no, he went over the player that was on his back, and then he taunted by doing the Hulk flex. That is taunting. Maybe you don't feel that way, that's fine. But by the letter of the rule, that is taunting. And I'm saying you got to be smart enough to not do that in these situations. How many times do coaches get in their players' ear holes and tell them, don't taunt, don't taunt, don't taunt. You're going to cost us 15 yards. Don't do it. Don't flex. Don't don't stand up and point. They still do it all the time. It blows me away. But this guy was like, that shouldn't be a penalty. It shouldn't be a penalty. I was like, he should be smart enough not to do that. And at that point, Cole, that's when I knew Penn State was going to lose that football game.
Yeah, they had every opportunity. And again, my whole thing is like usually Ohio State has Dwayne Haskins. Usually they have C.J. Strouds. And the one year they have Will Howard, you can't beat them. They turned the ball over. You can't. I mean, it was bad. Texter says Notre Dame beat A&M. Also a texter from the 706 says, both your takes on rankings are good, but the committee weighs heavily on the schedule. Remember Georgia and Florida State last season? Their weak schedule and Georgia's only loss in the SEC championship game cost them a spot.
So is texter by your logic, and you can tell me if I'm wrong here, are you saying that you don't believe Miami, Indiana, and BYU will be inside the top 5 because they played a weak strength of schedule? I mean, if you were to go by the AP rankings, that would have Oregon, Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Tennessee, Notre Dame, and then you mix up Miami, Indiana, BYU.
I just don't know that Miami's in the top 4 tonight, man. Like, you've got.
I think they'll do it just as a ratings grab. I think they'll do it as a ratings grab.
Okay, let me ask you this then. In your mind, not what you think will happen, should Miami be in the top 4?
No.
Okay, I agree with you.
Because they can't play defense.
And maybe my projections with Miami at 5 is more of me thinking they shouldn't be there and not evaluating what the committee's going to do enough, because I truly don't know what the committee's going to do, but I don't think they should, and I think the committee's smart enough to realize that. I think, keyword think, Miami, they're a good team, and like I said, when it's all said and done, they're going to be in the top 4 if they keep doing what they're doing. They're going to be in the top. They don't need to be worried about being in the top 4. They're going to be a championship team if they continue to play like they're playing, if they play Pitt or whoever in SMU in Charlotte, but I don't think tonight. I don't think they're there yet.
So here's how we should do this, Cole.
Okay,
and I think this is a fair way to judge who predicted better. Let's do a 1, 2, 3 point scale for comparing our list to the college football playoff list. If we hit a spot dead on, you get 3 points. So
it's like cornhole.
Yeah, we'll probably both get 3 points for Oregon. No, there's no 2-pointer in cornhole. It's on the board or in the hole. We ain't playing hangers here, okay? All right. But if you hit it dead on, you get 3 points.
Mm-hmm.
If you're within 1 position up or down, you get 2 points. If you are if you're 2 spaces away or more, you get 1 point.
Okay.
So you want to do that?
That's fine.
That sound fair to you?
I don't like losing, so I hope can I readjust it? No, I'm kidding. I like it. I just at the end of the day,
I'd say if you're 3 spaces off, you get no points.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. Look, I think top 4, you're going to see Ohio State, you're going to see Oregon because of what they've done, but I think the SEC, man, like I think you'll see Texas and Georgia in the top 4 tonight. I really do. They've both been good, and they've both. What are you looking at?
Just looking up.
Oh, I thought there was a bug. You know me, I'm just like a squirrel over here with my ADHD. I was worried we were about to get striked or struck down by something. What's the movie where the president's in the boat and those little drones start flying over? You know what I'm talking about? Is it London Has Fallen? Is it not London Is? There's 3
I
of
didn't
them.
watch those movies. White House Down?
You haven't watched those?
The White House Down?
Yeah, there's 3 total, though. There's 3.
Channing Tatum movies, right?
Yeah, what? You hadn't watched them?
I didn't see them.
They're great.
No,
I don't know how we went there. Anyways.
I do miss the just over-the-top silly action movies, though.
You got to watch those. Those are some good ones. Anyways, that's our list. I like the point system. We'll see. Again, these rankings, 7 o'clock tonight. I'm assuming on ESPN Diesel with the College Football Committee releasing their first top 12. Will Boise State be in the top 12 tonight?
Yes.
Yeah.
With a Heisman Trophy candidate running back, Genty, they'll be inside the top 12.
I think so too. Let's see. Texter says, we're going to run in just a second. Texter says, this is Keel from Pennsylvania. Penn State, still not even a top 12 team. They might miss the expanded playoff even after missing all 4 seeds. This is Franklin we're talking about here. Texter, I agree with you. I'm just not impressed. Not impressed at all.
I understand why Penn State fans are done with this guy.
Yeah.
I get it.
Should be, right?
He gets you close, but not all the way there. I mean, would you say, is it fair to call James Franklin the modern day Mark Richt? Like good enough to get you in the conversation, good enough to get you close.
Yes, fair. I mean, but
loses to Florida, I'm thinking like old school Mark Richt, right?
Yeah.
To Florida and Tennessee and Alabama and teams like that.
No, I'm with you. I like that. I just think Penn State should want more. I think they should, feel themselves as worthy of more than what James Franklin's done. Texters. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
They may get in initially, but the committee will find a way to get it wrong. Who is they? Is that
the CFP committee?
No. He says they.
May get in initially. Oh, maybe
talking about
maybe Boise State.
Oh, Boise State.
Yeah.
All right.
And Texter says, thoughts on Peanut the squirrel? Don't care. I don't care. Texter, I don't care about this squirrel. I don't.
What are you talking about?
Some internet viral squirrel.
Oh, I
didn't care about Harambe the gorilla. I don't care about this hippo. I don't care about the penguin. I don't care about the squirrel.
See, I don't know. I don't even know what y'all are talking about.
It's a viral internet thing.
See, I don't get out much. All right, David Newton, ESPN Talking Panthers. We talked to him earlier in the show. We'll have that for you next.
door. Call in.
Time to talk a little Carolina Panther football as we do right here on Wire to Wire. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. So good to be with you on this Election Day edition of the show. Time to talk to David Newton of ESPN, good friend of the show. Got to see David on Sunday as the Panthers got their their second win of the season. It feels like the first in a very long time. But before we get to that win, David, let's talk about a trade the Panthers made earlier today with the Dallas Cowboys. It seems as if right now they are wanting to stockpile picks. What do you think about the trade they made today?
Oh, I think it was a great trade. I mean, Jonathan Mingo was not in their future plans. And to get a fourth-round pick out of him, I mean, to put it in perspective, you traded Deontay Johnson, who's a Pro Bowl player and was a really big, impactful player for this team for at least for a few games, and they only got, a fifth-round pick. So, I mean, I think that the job Dan Morgan and I did on this was probably one of our better moves he's made so far because, if you look at the grade on ESPN, I didn't do it, but one of my colleagues did, and they gave, I think, the Panthers an A and the Cowboys a D, and I think that's spot on.
David, I don't know if I should call this tanking or if I should call this pre-building, like you're preparing for the rebuilding process. What word would you use?
I wouldn't use it tanking because, I mean, they're pretty much down the tank anyway. So I think as far just part of the rebuilding process, I mean, they need to stockpile draft picks. They need to build a core for their future out of the draft. I've written a story for tomorrow. And if you look at the top, the two teams that went to the Super Bowl for them, the core of that team was first and second, some third round draft picks in there. Both of those teams in 2003, 2015. If you look at what they've got now, there's hardly any of that. I mean, they basically moved on from 4 straight first-round picks from 16 to 19. Brian Burns, who they're going to see this week, was the last of those. They still got uncertainty in Bryce Young and Ike Ekwonu. They're 22 and 23 first-round pick. And so if you don't have success with those type players, then you're really going to be in trouble, and it sets you back. And plus, you got to hit on some other guys. I mean, I think Jalen Coker's a player at wide receiver, but hitting on him, I think, was big because it made a guy like Mingo expendable. If you look at what they were doing on Sunday, they're basically their top three receivers, one's a tight end, were all rookies. So it's a young team looking ahead, and they've got to continue in that mode because. I mean, I just don't see any way they can make any kind of run at the division or playoffs or anything here.
David, the Panthers got a 23-22 win on Sunday, their second of the season over the Saints. But let me ask you, based on what you were just saying, is the Panthers winning right now contradictory to what they're trying to do?
No. I mean, they still want to try to win. I mean, you got to do that. And they're trying to build momentum for next year. They just dug too deep of a hole this season when they started 1-7 to probably get out of that. So, no, they're going to try to win every game they can. I mean, I don't think there's a guy at number one, especially a quarterback, that you can go say, hey, we want to tank so we can get that pick. So, the Saints they'd lost 6 straight coming into the game. The Panthers 5. So the Saints, even though they dominated the Panthers in the opener 47-10. They're not a very good football team right now. They've been decimated by injuries. It was so bad that they fired their head coach the next day. So you had players going on, social media going, we lost to the Panthers. Like, holy cow, how do you do that? So again, it wasn't like they beat a contending team or a team that's going somewhere. They beat a team that's kind of like they are now in a kind of a reset mode.
David Newton covers the Carolina Panthers for ESPN. David, what does selling like this do inside of the locker room? Are guys who are on this roster now, are they playing hard to stay on this team, or are they playing hard to improve their own trade stock so they might go somewhere else?
No, it's just all about playing. I mean, if you're looking at your future, and it sends a message when you see guys traded that aren't contributing, and even guys that are, guys that probably won't come back like Deontay Johnson, then that just sends a message. You got to work harder just to guarantee your spot on the team. It's just a young group. And that's why I think they were so excited on Sunday, was because most of those players, they're not like, worried right now about making the playoffs or anything. They're worried about trying to win games and trying to keep jobs. So each win, each moment they do something good, it's a moment to celebrate right now. Now, if you're a team that's, like Kansas City, if you go out there and you win a game like they did on Monday night, yeah, they're going to be happy a little bit, but it was like same old for them. But for the Panthers, they know to get to that level, they've got to find a way to do it consistently, and they're still a good ways from that.
David, the Panthers on Sunday were the first team in Super Bowl era to win a game with under 250 total yards gained, 0 takeaways, and 425 yards allowed, and making history, I guess, in all the wrong ways, but you did get the win. How did you see the Panthers just find a way to get the win, even when it didn't feel like they should on Sunday?
Yeah, I think that's another good reason for the Saints to move on from their head coach, to be honest, because you just throw that stat up there and you're like, if you can't beat this team, it's just no reason for us to keep you around. So, but yeah, I think that the fact that they did hang around, even though it was against a not so very good team, and continue to fight, I think that says a lot, and it gives them hope that if they do that, when they get more talent around them, that things will get better. But they've got to do that every single game. Nothing's going to be easy for them. So they've got to continue to do that every single week. And, they're going to win a few games if they do that. If they don't, then they'll be like they were, before that, being blown out every week.
David, the Carolina Panthers now have 9 picks in the 2025 draft. Do you expect them to sell anyone else to try to stockpile any more picks? And what do you think the goal is? 4th rounders? Is that a good spot to be for them? I don't know that they got anybody good enough to sell for a 2nd or a 3rd rounder at this point.
Yeah, I just don't think that there's anybody else that they can really get that much draft capital for. I think what they've done now is they put them in a position for the draft in 25 to package some of those picks and move up and maybe get some better players and take, maybe get 2 4th-round picks and move into the 2nd or 3rd round or something like that. So I think that's the bargaining chip they've got right now with the picks they've added.
David Newton, ESPN, joining us right here on the Fan Upstate. David, when you look at Sunday after the game, there were a couple of questions asked to Dave Canales about whether he was ready to name Bryce Young the starter or not. He said, not yet, still some film to watch and things to go over. What do you think's keeping him from doing that?
I think they still believe deep down that Andy Dalton gives them the best chance to win. Bryce, while I thought he was consistent, had really 2 good drives. It wasn't anything else that was special out there. And so, and you have to remember that all the numbers that you cited before about how few yards they had and everything else, that just says that they didn't play a great game. They played a game they survived and won. So I think to me, it feels like he's leaning to go back to Dalton. I know they still want to know what Dalton can do. Do they need to re-sign him for another year or 2 and have him be in there as a transition quarterback for whoever the quarterback is next year? I think there's a lot still to be learned there. So I won't be surprised either way, but it's just the fact that they didn't go ahead and name Bryce Young the quarterback Sunday or Monday makes me feel like it's going to be a change.
Find him on Twitter at DNewtonESPN. David, how impressed have you been with rookie safety Damani Richardson? 8 solo tackles, 12 total last week, leading the team on Sunday against the Saints. And what has the staff had to say about him? He's an impressive guy out of Texas A&M.
Yeah, they really like what he's done, and those are the type of players that you got to hit on to really build your roster. You can't depend all the time on 1st, 2nd, maybe even 3rd round picks. So if you can hit on these other guys, that's just a bonus for you. So yeah, he's been impressive. They like what he's doing so far. He's again, they're going young, and so that's not to be denied right now. At the end of the season, you might see them, if they're not already, like the youngest starting roster in the NFL.
David, whether it be, an owner or a politician or anybody in the public figure, the public light, if you will, they always have a guy that kind of, just corrals them and kind of helps them, advises them and helps them make good decisions. Do you feel like Dan Morgan's that guy for Dave Tepper?
Yeah, I do. I think there's a lot of trust in David Tepper and Dan Morgan. Morgan has seen this done before as a player. He's been a part of 2 good teams in Seattle and Buffalo that have been contenders. So I think there's a lot of trust and a lot of faith in him. I agree with the method they're going about right now. Dan was probably right at the beginning of the season saying there are no expectations because, as we saw after that 1-7 start, there was no reason to have any expectation. He knew that this roster wasn't ready to compete for like a division title or anything right now. So, Dan's a smart guy, got smart people around him. So I think from that standpoint, I think they're in the best shape they've been in quite a while. Again, you've seen some of the moves he made like today. I think that was a really sharp move.
David, I think I asked you a question similar to this a few weeks ago when we had you on, but I'm curious as to how involved has David Tepper been in some of the personnel decisions. I know they're just sort of starting to trickle out now, but is he doing a good enough job of staying away, in your opinion?
No, I think he is. I mean, he's a guy that is going to get involved when he feels he has to, but right now he feels like he has a good management team that he can trust and he doesn't have to get involved. And so I think from that standpoint, they're in really good shape because I don't think it's been that way the last 4 or 5 years.
David, you making the trip to Munich?
I'm not making the trip to Munich, but this will be a good segue for me because I'm going to be in Greensboro, North Carolina for a Steep Canyon Rangers hurricane benefit on Thursday night. And my fiance, she's got donated some her beautiful paintings of the Blue Ridge Mountains.
Wow.
That they're going to be auctioning off. You'll go to my account, go to Babette Rental Studio account, and you'll see those. And the auction, silent auction or online auction starts tomorrow. And so you get a chance to, help some people, get some beautiful art in your house. And I think it's going to be a great event. I don't know if you ever heard the Rangers, but they're really good if you like bluegrass. Steve Martin and Martin Short will not be with them for this concert, but when they get together, it's a great show.
Well, David, I'm sad that we won't get to see you in your finest lederhosen, but do us a favor, have a bratwurst or something on that Sunday in honor of the Carolina Panthers.
I don't even know where to go with that, but I appreciate it.
Thanks, David.
I appreciate you. That is David Newton, ESPN, joining us right here on the Fan Upstate as he does fairly regularly.
Think you know better than career coaches making 100.
Well, Cole, enjoy the last day of sanity in this country because tomorrow all hell will break loose.
Is that what they say?
That's what maybe our sister station down the hall says.
I don't believe, regardless of who wins, I think tomorrow we might still show up at work. We might still eat lunch.
Because I still want to get paid. I don't know about you.
No, I did too. I would prefer to. It would be nice.
Yeah, so it would behoove all of you to show up to work tomorrow like it was a normal day.
It is sad, though, that they're having to, put all kind of protection in big cities and, protect the businesses. That's sad.
Yeah.
It's sad.
And the scary thing is,
that way.
I think it's whoever wins, there could be some bad actors on either side of this thing.
I hope not. I hope there's none.
Make that necessary.
I hope
let's
show the country what we're supposed to be, regardless of who wins. If Trump wins, great. If Kamala wins, great. You're still going. Look, I'm not saying don't vote and don't care. I vote. I care, but it doesn't affect my emotions or, I'm just so, I'm going to go riot. And no, be a human, be a decent human.
I can't go riot because I got to be here tomorrow. We got to be at Ingles.
All are at Ingles.
Yeah, we don't have time to riot.
Please don't riot at Ingles because then Diesel and I will get, we'll get stuff thrown at us. You can riot that we're there. I mean, that might be.
You can riot across the street. How about that? If you want to do that, or just do it in your own homes. Just do it in your own homes.
I'm glad it's over though.
You don't need to go anywhere and riot. Just do it in your homes.
Look, and I know one party's going to be happy, one's going to be upset, but I won't miss the political anxiety, the drama, the texts, the ads, the campaigns. Let's just get back to, being nice to each other, regardless of who wins.
So we get back to talking about Dabo Sweeney and how much you love the coaching job he's doing.
I do. I love it. I mean, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, the one of the funniest stories today, Cole, is that they wouldn't let Dabo vote. Dabo Sweeney could not vote in the 2024 election because Dabo's son bears the exact same name as him.
Yeah.
William Sweeney.
Mm-hmm.
And his son had already voted. Apparently his son had voted early voting.
Yeah.
So when Dabo goes to the polls, they say, oh, sorry, you can't vote. We already have a William Sweeney that's voted. And he's like, no, that's my son. My son is also William Sweeney. So you didn't think that through when you named him William Sweeney.
But I wonder, though, there's got to be other people who have their son's name or dad's name.
Of course.
Wonder how that happened. It is weird. It is weird. Because I thought, did they scan your driver's license today?
Yeah.
They scanned mine.
Yeah, they scan your ID. How did it was a glitch in the system. For example, my wife had gone through all of the voter like name changing things that you do when you get married.
Yeah.
And she done everything she was supposed to do. She changed her driver's license. Everything was supposed to be set. And then they get there and they're like, yeah, we can't find you in the system. We can't find you. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm registered. I've got my voter ID card. You scanned my license already.
Yeah.
I've got my voter ID card here. And, she was told just in case, bring that anyway. And she needed it because then she goes and they have to get the supervisor involved. And he comes over and he looks at it for like 3 seconds. And like, her name's right there. So just the dum-dum, the sugar plum that was working at the check-in counter couldn't read a list.
Mm-hmm.
And then took a supervisor to figure it out. So anyway, Dabo's going to have to go do a special hearing on Friday.
What's the point, though?
Yeah, exactly. By that point, we should know who's the president, right? God, could you imagine the self-importance if Dabo Sweeney's vote came down as the one that decided who was going to be president of the United States?
Well, if he were in another state, maybe, but in South Carolina, I don't think it will. I don't think it'll matter in South Carolina. However, it is funny, though, that somebody of that level of, importance couldn't vote. I mean, I said earlier, good. He shouldn't. I am mad at him, right? Things are complicated right now between us.
So Dabo, he was allowed to complete his paper ballot, and he was told that he would have to attend a special hearing on Friday to get it fully resolved. Now, I would assume, Cole, that this hearing may also fix this snafu for next elections.
I guess.
Like how old is Dabo Sweeney's son?
23.
William. Will Sweeney is come on.
Well, he just graduated a few years ago. I'm going to guess 23, something like that.
Yeah. So it's possible that Will Sweeney did not vote in the 2020 election just because he chose not to.
Yeah. Or was too young.
It would
Was he
appear
21?
18.
Oh, see, shows how much I know.
So maybe he just chose not to vote. Maybe he didn't register and vote in 2020. So maybe it wasn't an issue in 2020, but it's a new issue now. So maybe they're going to go get that thing fully resolved for, I guess, the next midterm elections. If Dabo votes in the midterm, I don't vote in the midterms.
I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard from a source that when they told Dabo he couldn't vote today, they said it had something to do with his inability to use the transfer portal. That's what I heard.
Okay.
The lady said, look, sir, you have to believe in adaptation, and evolving.
I thought it was because he didn't go for 2 when they were down 13.
Well, that's fine too. That's fine too.
Yeah.
But if you're voting in this country, you want to evolve. You want to get better. You want the country to get better. Dabo doesn't want to change. So that's just what I heard out there.
So this is what Dabo had to say about it. Quote, "They done voted me out of the state." See, I'm done with Dabo because he says they done.
They done
voted me out of the state. We're 6-2 and 5-1 in the ACC, man. They done shipped me off. I'm going to try to do my best, Dabo.
Good.
They done shipped me off. I was trying to do my best and be a good citizen and go vote. Sometimes doing your best ain't good enough. You have to keep going, though.
That sounds kind of like Spurrier more than it did Dabo.
Sorry.
Ball coach.
Yeah.
Last thing I'll say, though, before we close the show, I said this earlier. If you are voting today and your candidate doesn't win, here's how I picture this country. I picture it like an airplane, right? We're all on the same plane in the United States diesel. Regardless of who wins, your candidate or the other candidate, you want the plane to stay up here, right? You don't want the plane to crash. So if the person that I voted for doesn't win, I want the best for the other candidate. I want that candidate to absolutely crush it because I'm on the plane.
Some people just want to split the plane in half and then duct tape it shut.
Yeah, but we're one country, though. Country before party, right?
Should be. That's not how a lot
We're
of people feel.
We're all on the same plane, man. We're all on the same plane.
Move to Canada if you don't like it.
If your candidate doesn't win, hope for the best for the other. We'll see you tomorrow at Ingles and Liberty.